Hi, Miss Bridgewater.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, let's see. Hold on, hold on. Let me see if I can turn the volume up. Hi, beautiful.
You're just as gorgeous as you want to be too. Happy
Um,
holidays.
Here to you, darling.
Yes, yes. And ma'am to you as well.
We're waiting for the Spanish interpreter to log on,
Okay.
and this is Attorney Doda's client. So what I was going to do is have the hello. Hold on, please. As soon as I finish, um, uh, okay, slow down, slow down. Ooh, breathe. When the attorney finished with, oh God, I lost my train of
It's
thought.
okay. Just
Oh, when the Spanish interpreter logs on, can we have Attorney Dodas switch over with her
okay.
so
I
we can
see him on the screen now. So let me see. Do you need a breakout
yes.
something?
Breakout room, phone call, whatever's easiest.
Okay, let me get with the host and let her know because that would expedite things.
Okay. Do we have is the interpreter on yet?
I saw what one was requested. However, I don't see the interpreter on here as of yet.
Okay.
But we'll make note of it as soon as she gets signed to see if we can.
Perfect. Whatever's easiest, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bridgewater.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine,
How
thank
are
you. Hope you are as
you?
well.
Look, it appears we're gonna have New Year's Eve. That's our SAP date. So
Oh, okay. All right.
the 31st. I Tuesday the 31st. Are you scheduled
Okay.
that day?
I, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Let me check this
Hey, Your
schedule.
Honor.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm not sure if anyone's scheduled, Ms. Bridgewater. We don't have on our
The
schedule that
calendar.
there is court on the 31st for
You
the
know what?
SAP.
Well, let me double check that.
Okay.
Let me double check it right now, and I'll get right back with you. Okay.
All right. Very good.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well this afternoon. Let's see. I see that we have somebody at ACDC.
Hey, Your Honor.
Yes.
My name is Frederica Evans. I was trying to see was Brianna Beard on your list today.
Yes, Miss Beard is on the list today. Evans.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, man.
If you can, but not just you don't have to. No.
Your Honor,
Yes.
we're not gonna have court that day for SAP to be that following, which is the
Okay,
20th.
I'm getting some feedback from someone. I don't know if the rest of y'all hear it. Someone speaking, so
I don't know.
is that at ACDC? Okay. Yes, that was ACDC. Tell me again, Miss Bridgewater, I'm sorry.
We're gonna do it that Thursday, January the 2nd for the next available SAP date.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're ready whenever you are, courtroom 2.
Yes, good afternoon, Judge Morrow. Hope you're doing well.
I am, Francois. I hope you are as well. Thank you.
I am. Thank
And I know that I saw the Spanish interpreter on the line, so I take it that we need the interpreter this afternoon, just so I'm sure that you probably already know.
Yes, that is correct, Judge.
Okay, thank you for being here, Ms. Chancey. We'll be with you.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I need Miss Chancey.
Okay, and who do you have there, Officer Milton? Good afternoon.
Senora Diaz Cabrera for Attorney Dodos.
And that'll be position 8, Your Honor, if I could have a breakout room,
Okay,
whenever is convenient for the court.
let's go ahead and do that now, and let's take some cases that are not yours, Mr. Dotis. So if we can put Madam Interpreter, Mr. Dotis, and ACDC into a breakout room.
Thank you, and Your Honor, position 7, I'll also need the Spanish interpreter, Mr. Cruz, that in courtroom 2. So I'll try to take care of those back to back.
Okay. Well, if they're in courtroom 2, they'll probably have to go to another courtroom for you to talk with them.
Okay. Also, once they're done, Judge, we can do a breakout for courtroom 1 and the Spanish.
Okay. Okay, very good. So that's what we will do. And who else do we have on the line that's a public defender today? Who's with you, Mr. Dotis? Oh, Mr. McLean. Okay, yes, good afternoon. So can we take some of Mr. McLean's cases while Mr. Dotis, and just let me address everyone in courtroom 2 there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We are providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their services. Yes, who do we have there?
This is going to be position number 11, Ms. Faulkner.
Okay, good afternoon, Ms. And what? Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Faulkner. You have been charged in case 24-CR008180J with battery, family violence, and cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. Ms. Hardy, good afternoon. Is there a history?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The last arrest for this defendant was September the 27th, 2023, out of DeKalb for simple assault. I have a total of 4 arrest cycles, 1 arrest out of Georgia, 3 out of Alabama. Nothing further to report.
Yes, Ms. Allen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is a co-defendant case. This is a dual arrest. Mrs. Faulkner was arrested with the gentleman in position 16, Mr. Carl Pruitt. They currently live in Michigan, although she is from down here. She's got criminal history that you just heard of out of Alabama, and then has an open case in DeKalb County for disrupting a public school and simple assault. That was in 2023. This incident occurred on the 15th, Your Honor. The victim in this case is the husband of the young lady sitting in front of you. His name is Stephen Faulkner. The location is 2625 Charlestown Drive, number 18B. Police were called when The defendant and her current boyfriend, she's carrying his child, drove down from Michigan with the child that she shares with the victim, Mr. Faulkner. Little girl's initials are EF. Mrs. Faulkner, in front of you, told police she came down to serve the father of her child and her current husband divorce papers. He walked with his child into his residence to show her Christmas presents he'd gotten for her. The current boyfriend of the defendant in front of you, Mr. Pruitt, her co-defendant, demanded Mr. Faulkner come outside and bring the child. He did so. And then Mr. Pruitt assaulted him there in front of his townhome in the parking lot area. He was repeatedly struck by Mr. Pruitt. He was seen to have multiple lacerations on his face. He now has bloomed bruising on his face as well. Mrs. Faulkner, when Mr. Faulkner was on the ground, walked over and kicked him in his face, and she made an admission to doing that on the scene. Both she and her current boyfriend, who now reside in Michigan, were arrested. This was done in front of their minor child with the initials EF. That's the basis of the cruelty in the third charge, Your Honor. I would note that Mr. Faulkner has tried to file divorce and have a divorce process done with this defendant in DeKalb County in 2023 following her case assaulting someone at an elementary school that she's currently out on bond for. And then he tried again here in Fulton County in July of 2024, but she tends to file documents in saying she lives in Michigan and the case gets dismissed. It's very interesting to the state why she would now travel down from Michigan to serve him papers when the same logic should apply. And Michigan doesn't have jurisdiction over this gentleman for her divorce action out of that jurisdiction. However, here we are today. These individuals are married. They share a child. He's got rights to this child. We've spoken to him today. Mr. Faulkner reports that the current boyfriend and Mrs. Faulkner came to his residence. He confirmed what happened. He says he has had physical issues with the defendant in the past, but this is the first time police have been called. He's got a busted lip. He's requesting no contact and to stay away from his residence. Again, that location is 2625 Charlestown Drive, 18B. We're asking for a $4,000 surety. Her Alabama arrests are DV, assault in the third degree, property damage, and harassment. And she's got an open case in DeKalb County from 2023, after which she conveniently fled the state and moved to Michigan and is unable to be served or divorced. You can't force people to divorce you, and you can't force people to give up access to their child. I would note that in the filing in DeKalb County in 2023, while this gentleman was trying to get a divorce, he requested a hearing at one point, stating that he's not been allowed to have access to his child or talk to his child. So there's clearly an issue here, Your Honor. As for Mr. Excuse me. Co-defendant, Mr. Pruitt, do you want to hear about his criminal history, or do you want to?
Let me wait till I get him before me.
Thank you. And if you'd
thank
sound
you.
for Mr. Faulkner, I believe he's joining us on the Zoom.
Yes, Mr. Faulkner, I see you there. If you wish to address the court, you don't have to, but if you wish to address the court, now is your opportunity. If so, I need for you to unmute yourself, activate your camera, and I'll have to swear you in, sir. Okay, it doesn't appear that Mr. Faulkner wishes to address the court this afternoon. As such, Mr. McLean, is this your case?
No, Your Honor. My case, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon, Ms. McLean.
Good afternoon. My client, Mrs. Faulkner, is 32 years old. I noticed that the state mentioned some arrests, but no convictions were mentioned. My client does live in the state of Michigan, but she also has ties to the Metro Atlanta area, Your Honor. I would ask the court to consider giving my client a signature bond so she can get out of jail. She tells me that she's very concerned about her 8-year-old daughter because she tells me that she is the one who has primary custody of this child. and she's just concerned about her well-being and getting her child back. I believe the child is probably with dad at the moment. But as I said, I didn't hear any convictions on the record at all. And just because someone has been arrested or charged doesn't necessarily mean that they are guilty. So based on the fact that she has no convictions on her record, I'm asking the court to consider signature bond for her.
Okay. For the battery, it's going to be a $1,500 good bond. For the cruelty, a $500 good bond, makes for a total of a $2,000 good bond. No further contact with Mr. Faulkner. Stay away from the Charleston Drive address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond.
Thank you,
Good
Your
luck. You're welcome. Good luck, Ms. Faulkner. Courtroom 2, if we have Mr. Pruitt there, can we have him next, please?
And Your Honor, the issue of the child is going to come up once this young lady is released from custody. There clearly has been no determination of who should have primary custody of this child. There's a record that the dad has asked for a divorce multiple times. And she stated herself she came down here to serve him with papers and then assaulted him with her new boyfriend in front of that child. So if the court could make a determination until there's some other superior court order issued related to the custody of this child, I believe that would assist with any further issues.
I'm going to leave that to the Superior Court if they choose to do so. There can be third-party transfer of the minor child. I'm not sure who has, it sounds like she has primary physical custody, so.
Well, they're married, and if she left the state with the child, then that would be the case. But just as Mrs. McLeod said, just because you've been arrested doesn't mean you've been convicted. Just because you have the child in your possession and if withheld that child from their father, who they have legal rights to, doesn't mean that they're in your primary custody or a court has issued that.
Well,
I don't see anything in Fulton County related to that, other than the fact that this gentleman has tried multiple times in multiple counties here to gain access to the child that he should rightfully have access to.
Well, he can file something in Superior Court. At the present time, as far as this bond hearing goes, it's going to be third-party transfer for visitation. Okay, and this is Mr. Pruitt in front of me, is that right?
Yes, it is, Judge. Position number
Okay.
16.
Thank you. Mr. Pruitt, you've been charged in case 24 CR 008179F with battery. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was December the 4th, 2021, out of Berkeley County, Michigan, for a traffic offense. They have a total of 9 arrest cycles out of Michigan. Nothing further to report.
Okay. Anything further on this, Ms. Allen?
No, that's all the information I have as well. This is his first arrest in Georgia because he doesn't live here and has no ties to this location. As you just heard, he came down here to assist his current girlfriend, who's married to the victim, with their 8-year-old child, and then assaulted Mr. Faulkner in front of his home. We're asking for a $2,000 surety. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons, no contact, and to stay away from that location. Again, that's 2625 Charlestown Drive, 18B. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. McLean, good afternoon.
Your Honor, good afternoon. My client is 30 years old. He is a graduate of Southfield High School in Southfield, Michigan. He works at DMS, which is a manufacturer of automobile parts, and has done so for about a half a year. Before that, he was involved in delivering appliances to homes and businesses that had purchased them. Your Honor, he is charged, as we know, with the charges here, but the problem is he doesn't. He needs to get back to court. May not be able to give him a single bond. So if the court would consider an extremely micro cash bond, that would be even better than a $1 signature bond, surety bond for me to ask for.
Okay. It's going to be a $500 good bond. No further contact with Mr. Faulkner. Stay away from the Charlestown Drive address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Pruitt.
Next, we have, Your Honor, is position 21, Ms. Sloan. This is Mr. McLean's client.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Sloan. And let me just, good afternoon, ma'am. Let me address everyone that's in the courtroom with you. I don't think that I've had that opportunity. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the state court expedited accusation calendar that we're conducting by video. You all have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their services. Ms. Sloan, you've been charged in case 24 CR 008173G with battery family violence, 2 counts, and simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was July the 4th, 2018, out of Troup County for simple battery. They have a total of 2 arrest cycles in Georgia. Nothing further to report.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me just pull up my notes, excuse me. This is an incident that occurred on the 15th of December. This is also an incident that was witnessed by multiple other people. It's alleged that Mrs. Sloan assaulted her husband, Maurice Sloan, by biting him and striking him multiple times. He was observed to have scratches on his face, lacerations on his face and under his eye, across his nose, as well as all over the back of his head. And I will give you an address one moment. I apologize, I closed that window. We have tried to get in touch with Mr. Sloan today, have not been successful yet. We'd be requesting a $3,000 SOB through pretrial, no contact, stay away from wherever he may live. If she needs a one-time escort, then that should be facilitated. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. The address, Your Honor, where this occurred was 3859 Flat Shoals Road in South Fulton. The defendant or the victim reported that they had gone out to celebrate. And so I believe that's where the incident occurred. Not sure what the residential address is.
Okay. If Mr. Maurice Sloan is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. I'll need for you to activate your camera and unmute yourself. Doesn't appear so. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client, you see her first name was pronounced Felicia. Ms. Sloan is 51 years old. She has worked and she is a homemaker. Her address is listed as Noonan, Georgia, actually. And Flat Shoals, I think, is a location where I'm not sure if it was where people pulled over into a gas station or what. The Troup County simple battery in the past, of course, is LaGrange, and she has a very minimal record. We would ask the court to give her the signature bond, but I have some trepidation telling her to stay away from her own home. Thank you.
The assault actually occurred in the vehicle on the way home from a restaurant, and the car had to be pulled over as a result of the striking the victim multiple times.
Okay, for each charge, it'll be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1, makes for a total of a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Since we have not heard from Mr. Sloan at the present time, no further contact with him. Stay away from his residential address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. If the residential addresses happen to be the same address, she can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. Good luck to you, Ms. Sloan.
Judge, I'm sorry, you said this was who, Ms. Sloan? What was the bond amount?
Yes, it's position number 21. It's a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Position number 18, Ms. Rump.
Good afternoon, Ms. Rump. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008177E with battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
No, Your Honor, this defendant does not have any history to report at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred on the 15th of December at about 12:30 p.m. Police were called to 2353 Metropolitan Parkway, Southwest. They met with the victim. Her name is Lace Brea. That's Lase space Brea, last name Thomas. She reported that she'd come over to that location to braid her granddaughter's hair. Her daughter there, the defendant in front of you, argued with her and then proceeded to strike her in her face. She was seen to have swelling and discoloration to her face as a result of being struck, and the defendant in front of you admitted that she had punched her mom. Unfortunately, there's not enough information about the juvenile there on scene to witness this, so you don't have a cruelty in the third degree in front of you, but that would be appropriate. We reached out to try to get in touch with Mrs. Thomas today, but have not been successful yet. We'll continue those efforts. We're asking for a $2,000 SOB through pretrial, no contact, and anger management of some kind.
Okay, if Ms. Lace Thomas is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. Mr. McLean?
No objection to this request.
All right, as such, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Stay away from the Metropolitan Parkway address. No further contact with Ms. Thomas. 1-day anger awareness. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. Rowe.
Number 14, Ms. McFadden.
Good afternoon, Ms. McFadden. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008176A with 2 counts of simple battery. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was June the 22nd, 2023, out of Atlanta for a DUI. That case is open under 24 CR 006086A. There's a total of 4 arrest cycles, 3 arrests out of Georgia, 1 out of Massachusetts. There's a felony conviction for theft by taking, identity theft, and it appears that they're on probation. That case number is 23 SC 186845. There also appears to be a hold out of Cumming, Georgia for an FTA. The date of the warrant being March the 8th, 2024. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Estiano.
Good afternoon, Judge. This incident took place on September 14th of this year at Emory University Hospital, Midtown. The public safety officer there, Mortis Andrew, was assaulted by the defendant. She punched him in the chest and spat in his face. We have not been in touch with him today. We will continue those efforts in trying to reach him. The state's requesting a $2,000 surety, no contact with Mr. Andrews, stay away from the hospital unless seeking medical treatment, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And if you could sound for him, thank you.
Mr. Andrews is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, Tamika McFadden has a job in a warehouse through a temporary agency in which they package up and flowers and candy and gifts in this warehouse to people. Given what is open and the probation that she's on, we would ask the court to consider a $1,000 surety bond, or if possible, a signature bond, given that she was undergoing medical treatment at the time. And she tells me that she was apparently we'd ask the court to consider one of those two things, bond or a 1,000 surety.
Okay, she doesn't seem to have a history of any violence, so it's going to be a $1,000 signature bond through the jail on each charge. Makes for a total of a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. No further contact with Mr. Andrews. Stay away from Emory University Hospital unless seeking medical attention. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. McFadden.
Number 1, Mr. Bates.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bates. You have been charged in case 24CR008158A with battery. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was October the 9th, 2023 out of Fulton County for criminal damage to property. It appears that they're on probation for that case under 23 SC 190613. They have a total of 21 arrest cycles out of Georgia, a felony conviction in 2024 for aggravated assault, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, 2002 possession of controlled substance. Open probation cases, there's 2 additional. First one is 20 SC 176882. And that one is for aggravated assault and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. And then 24 SC 000272 for possession of a firearm. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Desiano?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident took place on December 14th. Officers were dispatched to 33 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive regarding a physical dispute. The victim in this case is Leona Owens. She told officers that she was taking drugs with the defendant, and after she was under the influence, she went back to her tent at the Central Presbyterian Church. The defendant approached her tent, asked her to have sex with her. She said no. And in response, the defendant struck her multiple times in the face. Ms. Owens did have visible bruising and swelling to her face. She also told officers that once she was assaulted, she threw the bottle at the defendant, threw a bottle at the defendant in self-defense when he was attacking her. The officers also spoke to the defendant, who said that he only gave her drugs because she promised to have relations with him. And when he delivered his part of the bargain and she did not, he got upset. And he did admit to punching the victim in the face, but he claims that he only did so after the bottle was thrown. However, the officers did determine that he was the primary aggressor. He was arrested. We have not been in touch with Ms. Owens yet today. And given his history, Your Honor, state's requesting a $2,500 surety bond, no contact with Ms. Owens, an ADET, stay away from the incident location, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And if you could sound for Ms. Owens.
Ms. Owens is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Yes. Is this your case, Ms. McLeod?
It is, Your Honor.
Okay.
My client is 51 years old. He denies that he was the primary aggressor in this case, Your Honor. He tells me that the alleged victim threw the bottle at him first, and he was merely defending himself. He said he doesn't really know her very well, but, they had been apparently using some drugs together. And that was part of the agreement, that she would have sexual intercourse with him. And I guess they were having an argument about it when she struck him with this bottle. My client is homeless, he tells me, and he's currently unemployed. So, of course, he's not in a position to pay for bond. So I'll ask the court to take that into consideration in setting his bond, because if he does not get a signature bond, he's going to be sitting in jail based on his lack of resources. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, it's going to be $1,000 good bond. No further contact with Ms. Owens. Stay away from the MLK Jr. Drive address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Bates.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Number 9, Mr. Drew. What they say? Oh, you sent the email?
Good afternoon, Mr. Drew. You have been charged in case 24CR008167J with simple battery family violence. Is there a history? Sorry.
The last arrest was August the 10th, 2023, out of Atlanta for battery family violence. That did result in a misdemeanor conviction. They have a total of 6 arrest cycles, arrests out of South Carolina and Georgia. Misdemeanor conviction in 2019 out of South Carolina for public disorderly conduct. 1999, simple battery family violence. Nothing further to report.
Ms. Desiano?
Yes, Your Honor. And the conviction from his arrest last year, it's a simple battery family violence. It's involving the same victim for slapping her. He is on probation for that. He just pled back in May, 23 CR 004915J. Of course, he's ordered to have no violent contact and complete FFIB. There's also another arrest from 2023 for simple assault family violence against the same victim. Looks like that case was dismissed. That's 23 CR 004916J. This incident took place on December 15th. Officers were dispatched to 147 15th Street, apartment 11E, regarding a dispute. The officer knocked on the door, and the victim, whose name is Allison Drew, she's the defendant's wife, answered the door. The defendant was behind her, and she told the officer everything was fine and that she did not need police. The defendant also said everything was fine. And then the victim mouthed to the officer while facing away from her husband and said, "I'm not okay." So at that point, the officers separated them and spoke to both of them. Miss Drew told officers that the defendant came home and there was an argument and the defendant spit on her. The defendant admitted to spitting at her at the argument. It's also caught on video. The victim told officers she was scared for her safety because of the violent history between the parties. She told officers that the defendant is on probation, as I explained, and that when he gets angry, he gets very aggressive, and he has, of course, gotten physical before. We've been in touch with Miss Drew today. I believe she's also on the Zoom. She states that she confirmed the events in the warrant, the previous cases. She said she's also had to call the police in November because she locked herself in the bedroom and the defendant was banging on the door for hours. She states the defendant has a drinking problem and he needs to go to rehab. She stated that in the incident in November, the police were called and the police told the defendant to go to a hotel room for the night, and they left and he did not go to a hotel room. She wants no contact and a stay away. And given his previous cases, Your Honor, the state's requesting a $5,000 surety bond, no contact with Ms. Drew, stay away from their residence, an alcohol and drug evaluation, follow any recommended treatment, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol, and if you can sound for Ms. Drew.
If Miss Allison Drew is on the line, I see you there, Miss Drew. If you would like to address the court, you certainly don't have to, but if you would like to, I will need for you to activate your camera for me, and I'll have to swear you in.
Okay. Let me see. I'm not sure if I can do that. You can hear me though, right?
I have to see you, Miss Drew. I just can't
Okay.
rely
I'm
on the
trying
fact
to,
that you
my
speak.
camera, I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Let's see. Can you,
There
oh,
you
you
go.
can see me now. Okay.
Yes, I can see you now. Can you
Okay.
raise your right hand for me, ma'am?
Yes, yes, sir.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do swear that it's the truth.
Okay, you can place your hand down, Mr. Thank you. What would you like to tell the court?
I believe that my husband has been under tremendous stress, and I believe that he really has a psychiatric situation that needs attention, possibly bipolar. Alcohol doesn't make it better. He is a doctor and he's a terrific person, but when he's under tremendous stress, I feel that he has a psychiatric issue that switches him to anger, and he has no ability to stop it. And I really, truly, as also a medical person in my background, believe that he needs psychiatric evaluation and treatment.
I understand, Ms. Drew, that he was ordered in the other case to start completing family violence intervention. Do you know whether or not he started to do that?
Yes, he has done it. The thing is, on the day that he has, every Sunday when he has that meeting, he gets antsy afterward. It's like it brings up all this stuff inside of him. He really had a terrible childhood. And by the way, both his parents are on their, on their way out. I'm sorry to say. His mother has Alzheimer's. She's in hospice, and his dad is on his way into hospice. I feel that that is a weight on him that he is struggling to handle, on top of the stress of his own job. And I really feel that it's mostly psychiatric on his end for his own self, because we've been in marriage counseling, and that was helpful. And it didn't seem difficult for us, the marriage counseling. But I think there's something that is a trigger for him when he has that meeting for anger management, because I think he's pushed things down so long, and he's got so much going on he's an only child. His mother and father divorced quickly after he was 4 or 5 years old. And I really feel he has abandonment issues. He's maybe has some kind of personality disorder that's really come to fester. It's just my opinion. But being in marriage counseling with him, and being a medical person myself, I truly believe it is psychological.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here this afternoon, Ms. Drew.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. As the state has said, this was a misunderstanding between this couple. They've been married for 21 years. My client tells me that he did not spit on her. It's just that they were talking very closely in each other's faces, and there might have been some exchange of spit when two people are talking close up together in each other's face. But he said he did not spit on her. That did not happen. He tells me also, Your Honor, that he has nowhere else to live. That's his home. So I did tell him that there was a likelihood that the court might say no further contact. So I don't know, but I just wanted to say that he says he doesn't really have anywhere else to live. He is employed. He works as an anesthesiologist. And he denies that he spat on his wife. Nothing further, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, briefly, there's a video of the incident. The officers did watch the video and determined that he did spit on her.
It's true. He spit on me.
All right.
He purposely spit
Thank you,
on
Ms.
me.
Drew. Thank you, Ms. Drew.
Okay.
All right. As such, it'll be a $3,000 good bond. No further contact with Ms. Drew. Stay away from the 147 15th Street address. He can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. I believe at this point it might, given that this was not his first case, a mental health evaluation is going to be ordered, along with an alcohol drug evaluation, and any treatment if necessary, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you both, Mr. and Ms. Drew.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You're done. Number 17, Mr. Riley.
And Your Honor, Mr. Riley is a cross defendant to position 4.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Riley. You have been charged in case 24 CR 008178C with 2 counts of battery family violence and 1 count of simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
No, Your Honor, there's no history to report for this defendant.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Desiano.
Actually, Your Honor, Mr. Riley's mine and Miss
Oh.
Destino has Mrs. Cook.
Okay.
So we'll both be sharing this one a little bit. This is an incident, Your Honor, from the 13th of December at about 11:10 p.m. Police were called to 500 Richard Allen Boulevard. There they spoke to the victim. Mrs. Roberta Cook. 911 dispatch told police that the caller on the line to dispatch, a female, was saying over and over again, get off me, before the line was disconnected. On scene, police located both individuals. They were both seen to have injuries to their face. Mr. Riley, who has criminal history out of Florida between 1983 and 2022, but this is his first arrest in Georgia, was seen in the lobby. He told police that he and his wife went to the sister-in-law's house for drinks. And then when they got home, they argued. She was upset because he was talking to his ex on the phone and she slapped him and then left. He went to sleep. And when he woke up, she wasn't there. And this upset him. He says he called his wife. She came back and they argued. And she took a metal coffee cup and smacked him in the face with it. He assaulted her in response. She was seen to have lacerations and scratches to her face, and she reports that her husband punched her multiple times. Mr. Riley had bumps and scratches on his face as well. We're asking for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, to stay away. There needs to be a one-time escort back to the location for one of the parties here. And there needs to be a cooling off period. Mr. Riley's criminal history in Florida includes mostly thefts, but aggravated assault, felony conviction, burglary felony conviction, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He's got many, many probation violations and failure to appears as well, but nothing recently since 2022. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 62 years old. I would be asking for a signature bond for my client. This was a misunderstanding between himself and his wife, he tells me. His criminal history, I believe he told me, he was arrested back in Florida a long time ago. There is nothing going on between them that would prevent them from continuing to live together. Couples do argue from time to time, and it's just a fact of life. Sometimes these arguments turn physical. This is not a situation where they have a long history of any kind of violent behavior together, and they've been married for some time. My client, he is on fixed income. He is disabled, so he's not in a position to pay for any bond, Your Honor. So I'm asking for a signature bond for him, conditioned on no further violent contact with his wife, because they live together. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, and is this Miss Cook at ACDC?
Yes, Your Honor, and attorney, he's on.
And that'll be my client, Your Honor.
Okay, so I want to go ahead and I'm not going to allow them to still have contact. So I'm going to go ahead and address your client, Mr. Dodas, just to hear what you have to tell me in regards to this matter. Good afternoon, Ms. Cook. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008160F with battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was May the 17th, 2023, out of West Palm Beach, Florida, for grand theft auto. There's a total of 12 arrest cycles out of Florida. Misdemeanor conviction in 2007 for trespassing and resisting an officer without violence. 2003 battery. Nothing further to report.
Ms. Desiano?
Yes, Your Honor. She also has a couple arrests for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, also in the early 2000s. The state's recommendation for Miss Cook is a 2,000 surety, no contact, stay away, or defer to the court who stays away. Anger management course, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol.
Mr. Dotis?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Cook is 61 years old. They did relocate here from Florida. It did sound like my understanding was the last conviction was either 2007 or 2017. I may have misread that, but no recent convictions is my understanding. Your Honor, this is an incident that happened. As stated, the my client and her husband relocated from Florida to Big Bethel Village. That's a senior living facility. Um, Your Honor, when this incident occurred, my understanding is that alcohol was involved at a sister-in-law's party. My client drove Mr. Riley home due to him consuming alcohol, and so alcohol did play a role in this. A verbal argument did ensue, and at the time, Miss Cook thought it would blow over and left to go get them food. And at this point in time, Mr. Riley um, thought that she was, I think, cheating on him or something that was a little irrational. Called her, and she came back to the residence when it did turn physical. At no point did my clients initiate any physical contact. It was all the only physical contact from her part was self-defense after already being placed in a scary situation. Your Honor, it is my client tells me that she's the one that not only called 911, but when she was able to get away, she pulled one of the ties in the senior living to get EMS, which is why the fire department was there as well. So she separated herself, did everything she could to end the situation. And of course, Mr. Riley did continue going on. My client also did suffer from visible injuries. Your Honor, my client cannot afford a bond, so I would just ask for a signature bond and for her to be allowed to return to the incident location. She tells me that she would have been fine with no further violent contact to give Mr. Riley a chance to get his things and move out. But I think at this point in time, I think if we did a one-time police escort so that he could get his property, that would be sufficient. And then no further contact until like was stated, a cooling off period.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dotis. For Mr. Riley, position number 17, for each of the batteries, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For the simple battery, $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1 makes for a total of a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 1-day anger awareness. No further contact at this time with Ms. Cook. Stay away from the Richard Allen Boulevard address. He can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. For Ms. Cook, it's going to be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 1-day anger awareness. No further contact with Mr. Riley. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you both, Mr. Riley and Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Come on, sir.
Your Honor, can we do the
ACDC, we're not ready for you yet. Not yet. Hold tight, ACDC.
My family.
whenever you get ready, Your Honor, position number 8 is ready.
Don't do this.
Judge, this is gonna be position number 23, Mr. Wells.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Wells. You have been charged in case 24 CR 008166Y with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers and criminal trespass. Is there a history?
The last arrest was March 31st, 2024, out of Atlanta for driving while license suspended or revoked. They have a total of 13 arrest cycles with arrests out of Georgia, Ohio, Arizona, and Nevada. Misdemeanor conviction in 2024 out of Arizona for criminal damage to property. Out of Ohio, 2012, resisting arrest. There appears to be a hold out of Beaver Creek, Ohio for an FTA. The date of the warrant being March 25th, 2015. Nothing further to report.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant, I believe, is currently on bond for that March 2024. It's actually a DUI, but I'll check his GCIC and confirm. Police were called on December the 15th, at about 10:45 in the morning to 904 Memorial Drive. That's a restaurant called Muchacho. It was reported by the staff there and the manager at the location that the defendant had been there at the location since 8 a.m. and had been asked multiple times to leave, but he refused. Officer Robinson approached the defendant because he was standing outside the location and asked him about it. Also asked the defendant to leave. The defendant refused. Told the police he was not going to leave, and then went inside, pushing people out of the way so he could make his way into the location. Police went to detain the defendant. He snatched his arms away. He refused to follow commands and allow them to handcuff him. He was eventually tased. He continued to resist, and EMS had to respond. Eventually, he was subdued. And so there's a criminal trespass for remaining after being asked to leave, and the obstruction. He was seen by EMS on the scene. Your Honor, the criminal history for this defendant includes 5 DUI convictions and multiple arrests for damage and trespassing. We would ask for a BHET. We would ask for a $2,000 surety bond, stay away from the location there. The restaurant at 904 Memorial Drive, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Thank you. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client, Mr. Wells, has been in Georgia for quite some time, over a year, I believe. He builds and movie sets, production scenery for Live Nation and other musical and other dramatic venues on screen and television. Your Honor, he has a BS from Mount St. Joseph University in business. We would ask for a signature bond, Your Honor, so that he can get back to work.
All right, for each charge, it's going to be a $500 good bond, makes for a total of $1,000 good bond. I want him to have a social worker visit for BHET, stay away from the Memorial Drive, Muchacho's address, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Right. Good luck to you, Mr. Wells.
Okay, you're done, sir. Hold on. Next, Judge, we're gonna do the Spanish interpreter case, position number 7, Mr. Cruz.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Chance. If you can raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm that you will interpret from Spanish to English and English to Spanish to the best of your ability?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Cruz. You have been charged in case 24 CR 008164C with simple battery family violence.
Buenas tardes, señora Cruz. Usted ha sido acusada en el caso CR 008164C con golpes y lesiones, violencia familiar.
Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
Hay antecedentes, señora Hardy.
The last arrest was September 6, 2017.
El último arresto fue el 6 de septiembre del 2017.
It was an ICE arrest for alien inadmissibility. Yes, under section 212.
Fue un arresto del Departamento de Inmigración por indocumentación.
There's a total of 5 arrest cycles.
Y hay 5 ciclos o procesos de arresto.
2011 misdemeanor conviction for driving registration suspended, canceled, or revoked, as well as DUI.
En el 2011, una convicción por delito menor por manejar con una registración suspendida, cancelada o revocada.
There appears to be a hold out of Doraville for an FTA. The date of the warrant is February 17th, 2018.
Y pareciera que hay una detención de Doraville por un incumplimiento de comparecencia ante el tribunal con una fecha de orden de arresto del 17 de febrero del 2018.
Nothing further to report.
Nada más para informar.
Stasiana?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident took place December 14th this year. Officers responded to a fight in progress at 2745 Old Hateville Road.
Sí, su señoría, este incidente tuvo lugar el 14 de diciembre de este año. Los oficiales respondieron a una pelea que se creó en aumento en el 2745 de Old Hateville Road.
Upon arrival, officers made contact with the victim, the defendant's roommate, Oscar Velasquez Perez.
Al llegar, los oficiales hicieron contacto con la víctima, el acusado coinquilino Oscar Velázquez Pérez.
Mr. Perez told police that the defendant woke him up, punching him and yelling at him over a broken air mattress.
El señor Pérez le dijo a la policía que el acusado lo despertó dándole bofetadas y gritándole sobre un colchón roto, un colchón de aire roto.
One moment, one moment. Is something going on with ACDC there?
¿Está
I'm
pasando
sorry,
algo?
Judge.
The camera's not on, it's in the.
I'm sorry, Judge, what's the issue?
The AC/DC camera wasn't on and I didn't know if they were still with us, so,
Yes, we hear you, Your Honor.
okay. Can we keep the camera on so that I know that she's listening to us?
Well, no, Judge,
Yes, Your Honor.
we're doing the Spanish interpreter
Oh,
with, courtroom 2.
oh, okay, I'm so sorry.
It's
Okay.
okay, Judge. Good.
Go ahead, I apologize, Ms. Desiano.
Continúe.
This is position 7, correct?
That is correct. Position number 7.
Okay. Making sure I was
Okay.
saying the right thing. Your Honor, the victim apparently sold the defendant an air mattress that had leaks in it, and there was a dispute over that.
Su señoría, la víctima aparentemente fue golpeada por el acusado debido a que el colchón de aire tenía una pérdida y hubo una disputa sobre eso.
There was another roommate on scene who witnessed the altercation. His name is Juan Lopez.
Hubo otra coinquilino en esta escena que atestiguó esta pelea y su nombre es Juan López.
Mr. Lopez told officers that the defendant did not punch the victim, but rather woke him up, started arguing, and shoved the victim. And then the defendant and the victim started shoving each other.
El señor López le dijo a los oficiales que el acusado no lo bofeteó a la víctima, pero lo despertó y comenzó a discutir y lo empujó y después el acusado y la víctima comenzaron a empujarse el uno al otro.
We've not been in touch with the victim yet today. The state's requesting an SOB through pretrial, no contact, stay away, anger awareness, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol.
No hemos tenido contacto con la víctima todavía hoy. La fiscalía solicita una fianza bajo firma a través de los servicios previos al juicio y no tener más contacto y mantenerse distanciado con una clase de manejo de la ira y prohibido el uso de armas, drogas y alcohol.
And Madam Interpreter, if you could sound for the victim, I don't believe he speaks English.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, can you tell me the name again?
Yeah, Oscar Velasquez Perez.
Señor Oscar Velázquez Pérez, si está usted en la plataforma de Zoom, por favor, prenda su micrófono y cámara para hablar con nosotros. Oscar Velázquez Pérez.
Doesn't appear so. Mr. Dotis?
Thank
Señor
you,
Doris.
Judge. Mr. Cruz is 42 years old, and as we heard, it didn't sound like there was any violent history. Your Honor, I do have good contact information for Mr. Cruz and his wife.
Gracias, su señoría. El señor Cruz tiene 42 años y por lo que he escuchado, él no tiene ningunos antecedentes de violencia y yo tengo un buen contacto, información de contacto para el señor Cruz y su esposa.
He does currently live at the incident location, but Your Honor, if this court finds that he cannot return, he does have family he can stay with, uncles, cousins, and aunts that reside in Riverdale, Georgia. He couldn't give me the exact address, but he does have an alternate place to stay with his wife.
Él vive en la actualidad en este lugar donde ocurrió el incidente, pero su señoría, si usted encuentra que él no debe regresar al lugar del incidente, él tiene familia con la que él puede quedarse, tíos, primos y tías que residen en Riverdale, Georgia, y podría darme la dirección correcta, pero tiene otra lugar alternativo a donde quedarse.
Your Honor, in addition to being the primary provider for his family, he does provide for two kids, one daughter who's currently in school in Houston, as well as a 5-year-old. He does financially provide for both of them, and he does so by working. He does an on-off schedule where he goes to Savannah to work at the port for Depor, where he ties steel beams for transport. So he does 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So we would ask for whatever conditions necessary to make sure he can continue working by traveling down to Savannah.
Su señoría, además de ser el proveedor primario para su familia, él también provee para dos hijos más, una hija que en la actualidad está estudiando en Houston, al igual que una hija de 5 años y provee financieramente para ambas de ellas y él por eso trabaja. Em, Él hace un horario de trabajo de un periodo sí y otro no, ya que va a trabajar a Savannah en Port de Port, donde él tiene que atar varillas de hierro para transporte. También él va a trabajar 2 semanas y después él regresa. Por eso quisiera pedirle que las condiciones necesarias para asegurarnos de que él pueda continuar trabajando y
Uh,
trabajar en Sabana.
Along with his wife, my client rented the entire apartment. And about a month ago, the landlord rented out just the living room for the alleged victim to stay in for just 1 month.
Con su esposa, mi cliente alquila todo el departamento, pero hace un mes que el arrendatario le alquiló solo la sala a la víctima alegada para que se quede ahí por un mes solamente en el departamento.
And as stated, Juan Lopez, another person living in the building, stated that my client did not wake up the alleged victim by punching him. Additionally, my client was not able to speak English and speak with officers. Neither was his wife, but the argument was verbal, and anything physical was just in self-defense.
Como se declaró, el señor Juan López, otra persona que vive en el edificio, declaró que mi cliente no lo despertó la víctima alegada o sea, a puñetazos. Adicionalmente, mi cliente no podía hablar inglés ni pudo hablar con los oficiales, ni tampoco pudo su esposa. Pero la discusión fue verbal y nunca física como fue de ser solo en defensa propia.
Your Honor, my client can't afford any monetary bond due to providing for his children, so we would agree with the state and ask for a signature bond. Our biggest concern is finding a way for Mr. Cruz to go back to his apartment. We would, of course, ask for at least a one-time escort, but we would ask if possible, after a 30-day period, if Mr. Cruz could return with deputies or the sheriff to see if Mr. Oscar Perez is no longer at the location and can continue living at that.
Su señoría, mi cliente no puede pagar una fianza monetaria debido a que él tiene que proveer para sus hijos. Entonces, queríamos estar de acuerdo con la fiscalía y pedir por una fianza bajo firma. Nuestra gran preocupación es encontrar una manera para que el señor Cruz pueda regresar a su departamento. Él, por ejemplo, él, por supuesto, va a pedir por lo menos que se lo guíe por un oficial una sola vez y posiblemente después de un periodo de 30 días quisiéramos pedir si el señor Cruz podía regresar para ver si el señor Oscar no está más en la residencia.
Nothing further from us, Your Honor.
Nada más de parte de la defensa.
Okay, it will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1.
Será una fianza bajo firma a través de los servicios previos al juicio en el nivel 1.
No further contact with Oscar Perez.
No tener más contacto alguno con Oscar Pérez.
Stay away from the old Hapeville Road address.
Y mantenerse distanciado de la dirección de Old Hay, la dirección de Old Hay address.
He can go back to that address with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings.
Él puede regresar con un oficial de la fuerza del orden para sacar cualquier pertenencia personal.
If Oscar Perez vacates the old Hapeville Road address, then he's allowed to return and live there.
Si el señor Oscar Pérez deja la residencia de Old Hayfield Road, el acusado tiene permiso para regresar y vivir en esa residencia.
No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond.
Queda prohibido el uso de drogas, alcohol y armas mientras esté libre bajo fianza.
Good luck to you, sir.
Buena suerte, señor. Thank you.
Next is petition 8, Ms. Diaz Cabrera.
En la posición 8, que sería la señora Díaz Cabrera.
Good afternoon, Ms. Diaz Cabrera. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008169H with driving under the influence of alcohol.
Buenas tardes, señora Díaz Cabrera. Usted ha sido acusada en el caso 24 CR 008169H con manejar bajo la influencia del alcohol.
Furnishing, purchasing, and possession of alcoholic beverages by persons below the legal age.
Por proveer, comprar y tener en posesión bebidas alcohólicas por personas menores de edad.
Possession of open alcohol container.
Tenencia de un envase de bebida alcohólica abierto.
Willful obstruction of law enforcement officers.
y por una obstrucción voluntaria a la fuerza del orden
and improper passing of emergency vehicle.
y por pasar de manera inapropiada un vehículo de emergencia.
Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
¿Hay antecedentes, señora Hardy?
The last arrest was January 21st, 2021.
El último arresto sucedió el 21 de enero del 2021
Out of Cumming, Georgia for driving without a license.
en Cumming, Georgia, por manejar sin licencia.
There's a total of 4 arrest cycles out of Georgia.
Y hay un total de 4 arrestos en el estado de Georgia.
Misdemeanor conviction in 2012 and 2021, both for driving without a license.
Una convicción por delito menor en el 2012 y 2021, ambos por manejar sin licencia.
Nothing further to report.
Nada más que informar.
Staciani?
Your Honor, this incident took place yesterday about 1:20 a.m. An officer was working an accident at 400 southbound and the MARTA station off-ramp when the defendant rear-ended a vehicle.
Su señoría, este incidente ocurrió ayer a eso de la 1:20 de la mañana. Un oficial estaba trabajando en un accidente en la autopista 400 en la mano hacia el sur y en la estación Marta fuera saliendo de la rampa donde la acusada golpeó yendo hacia atrás a un vehículo.
The vehicle that the defendant rear-ended was a police officer who was actually working the scene of a crash. And the officer had his lights on, blocking the lane where the accident occurred.
En realidad, el vehículo que golpeó de atrás la acusada era un oficial de policía que estaba en realidad trabajando en la escena de un accidente y el oficial tenía las luces bloqueando el carril donde había ocurrido el accidente.
The officer was in his vehicle when it was struck, and he complained of back pain and was transferred to the hospital during this stop.
El oficial estaba dentro de su vehículo cuando fue golpeado y declaró tener dolor de espalda y fue transferido al hospital durante esta detención.
Another officer made contact with the driver, but prior to doing so, a passerby approached him. His name is Kevin Peak, and told the officer that the defendant was throwing something over the wall.
Otro oficial hizo contacto con el conductor, pero antes de hacerlo, alguien que pasaba se acercó, su nombre es Kevin Peak, y le dijo al oficial que la acusada estaba tirando algo por sobre la pared.
The officer discovered that what was put over the wall, the concrete wall, was a 12-pack of Modelo Micheladas with 2 cans that were open and empty.
El oficial descubrió que lo que estaba tirando por sobre la pared de cemento, era un paquete de 12 cervezas modelo Michelada con 2 latas que estaban abiertas y vacías.
The officer made contact with the driver, who's the defendant before you. She had alcohol on her breath. She admitted she had been drinking. She also admitted that she gave her 18-year-old son, who was in the vehicle, a drink, and the son also smelled of alcohol.
El oficial contactó a la conductora que es la acusada enfrente suyo. Ella tenía aliento a alcohol, admitió que había estado bebiendo y también admitió que le dio a su hijo de 18 años que estaba en el vehículo a beber y el hijo también tenía aliento y olía alcohol.
And she also told officers that she tried to swerve to avoid the police car with the lights on, but could not do so in time because there was a semi truck in front of her.
Y ella también le dijo a los oficiales que trató de doblar rápidamente para esquivar al carro de la policía con las luces prendidas, pero no pudo hacerlo a tiempo porque había otro camión enfrente de ella.
And the state's requesting a 1,000 surety on the DUI, which is a restricted charge, and either an SOB on the remaining counts or a $500 surety bond on the remaining counts. No driving without a valid license, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. We did confirm it does appear she has a valid license, although her arrest history is largely driving without a valid license.
Lo que la fiscalía solicita es una fianza bajo garantía de $1,000 por el cargo de manejar bajo los efectos del alcohol, que es un cargo con restricciones, y también una fianza bajo firma en los cargos restantes por una fianza bajo garantía de $500 en los cargos restantes. No manejar con a no ser de tener una licencia válida, que se prohíba el uso de armas, drogas y alcohol. Confirmamos que parece que ella tiene una licencia válida, pero debido a los antecedentes de arrestos que tiene ella por manejar sin licencia anteriormente.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Nada más, su señoría.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, Ms. Diaz is 37 years old, Your Honor. She has a good address in Cumming, Georgia, where she will reside. She has been in Georgia for 19 years and plans on staying here. She has family in the area, including her daughter, Martha Diaz, and she is the sole provider of 3 children, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 1-year-old baby.
Sí, su señoría. La señora Díaz tiene 37 años de edad y ella tiene una buena dirección de residencia en Cumming, Georgia. También ella ha estado en Georgia por 19 años y planea quedarse aquí. Tiene una familia en el área, incluida su hija Marta Díaz, y ella es la única proveedora financiera de los 3 hijos, una de 14 años y una de 16 años, y también un bebé de 1 año.
Your Honor, her husband is currently incarcerated for domestic violence charges, which my client brought forward, which is why she is the sole provider of her children. To provide for her family, she's currently a sauce packer with Smithfield Quality Control, and she also works weekends at a nursing home as a caretaker.
Su señoría, su esposo está encarcelado actualmente por cargos de violencia doméstica a los cuales ella presentó, y es por eso que ella es la única proveedora financiera de sus hijos. Para proveer a su familia. En la actualidad, ella trabaja para el empaque de salsa con Smithfield, haciendo control de calidad, y también trabaja los fines de semana en un asilo cuidando ancianos.
Your Honor, that night she was very much unclear on what officers were asking her. She speaks very little English, And it doesn't appear that there was an officer there to translate, and she did not understand what she was saying, even through the Google Translate app.
Su señoría, esa noche ella estuvo confundida con respecto a lo que los oficiales le pedían o que dijera, ya que habla muy poco inglés y no parece que había un oficial que pudiera traducir lo que ella no entendió. Por eso ella estaba diciendo, ni siquiera entendió lo que se traducía a través de Google.
Your Honor, at this time, she does maintain her innocence, and we are just asking for a signature bond on every available charge and any conditions this court would in place to ensure the safety of the community and making sure she comes to court.
Su señoría, en este momento ella mantiene su inocencia y estamos solo solicitando por una fianza bajo firma en cada uno de los cargos y condiciones en este tribunal para que sean solicitadas para asegurar que ella regrese a este tribunal.
Okay, nothing further. For the DUI, it's going to be a $1,000 good bond.
Para, si no hay nada más, por el cargo de manejar bajo los efectos del alcohol, va a ser una fianza de $1,000.
For each of the additional charges, it'll be a $100 good bond.
Y por cada uno de los cargos adicionales va a ser una fianza de $100 cada uno.
Makes for a total of $1,400 good bond.
Haciendo un total de $1,400 de fianza.
No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond.
Y queda prohibido el uso de drogas, alcohol y armas mientras esté libre bajo fianza.
Good luck to you, ma'am.
Buena suerte, señora.
Thank you, Rhonda. May I ask you, please?
I'm
Perdón.
sorry, can you say it again?
¿Lo puede repetir?
That's it. No, that's for HCBC. May we be excused, please?
Oh, yes. Have a good afternoon. Thank you, Officer Milton.
Oh,
And do we need the Madam Interpreter for any other?
No, we're good, Judge.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
Good afternoon,
Tansey.
Your Honor. Have a good day.
Good afternoon. I appreciate it.
You're
Thank you very
welcome,
much.
sir.
Judge,
Are we gonna have? Oh, go ahead.
I do have a quick announcement for position number 2. It's gonna be, they waived their appearance for Ms. Beard.
I gotta cut you off.
Okay.
Okay, Clay, can you please mute? I'm sorry, Judge, were you able to hear me?
Position 2 is a waiver.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Very good. There was someone asking about position 2 for Ms. Beard. Although whoever was asking, although we are going to hear her case today, she is not going to be physically present with us. She has waived her appearance here today, and her attorney will be representing her. So I'm not sure who that was inquiring earlier, but I just wanted to let them know.
Your
Yes,
Honor,
Mr. McClellan.
in chat, I replied to that question, is she going to be here? I asked whoever that person was to call me on my desk, but I didn't hear from them.
Okay.
It's the
Thank you,
victim,
Mr.
Your Honor.
That's the victim in the case
Oh.
who's been present in court multiple times as this case has been reset.
Oh, okay. Well, I did put public defender, so probably they knew better because I thought maybe it was the mom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who do we have next?
This is number 20, Seaborn.
Okay. Mr. Seaborn, you have been charged in case 24 CR 008175A with 2 counts of battery family violence and 1 count of simple battery family violence. Okay, I'm not sure. We can hear someone's background. I'm not sure who that is. So
Sorry
Mr.
about that,
McClain-
Judge.
Oh, is it? I didn't know if it's courtroom 2 or not. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was July, July the 9th, 2023 out of Cobb County for obstruction. There's 5 arrest cycles out of Georgia. A misdemeanor conviction in 2023 for obstruction. There's an open case for conspiracy to commit a felony, and that number is 24 SC 005153. There appears to be a hold out of Decatur for assault. The date of that warrant is March the 12th, 2024. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that happened in February of this year. On the 8th of February, police were called to 1152 Moreland Drive, Southeast. There they met with the victim, who was in the driveway at the location at the time. She was bleeding from an obvious laceration to her ear area. She reported that she shares a 3-month-old with Mr. Seaborn, who's in front of you, that she had gone to the location to pick up their child. And when she went inside, she was assaulted by Mr. Seaborn's mother, Shanika Seaborn, who has already come through first appearance and is out on bond. That case is 24 CR 001026F. She came through in March. So March the 4th, mom was arrested and released, and she got her case assigned, but her son has been on the run since this incident in February. On scene, Mrs. Lassiter, the victim in this case, her first name is Amari, Amari, reported that she'd been assaulted by the defendant's mother, who struck her multiple times with fists, followed her outside to her vehicle as she put her 3-month-old in the car. At that point, the defendant, the child's father, intervened and also began striking her with his fists. She was seen on the scene to have bruising to her neck, as well as swelling and knots on her hairline area. In addition to that laceration to her ear, she was treated in the hospital, Your Honor. I would note that on February the 21st, Mrs. Lassiter filed a petition for a TPO here in Fulton County. And as part of that TPO, she wrote that during this incident, she was strangled by the defendant. That's why she had those visible marks on her neck, and that the defendant has not legitimized this child. And when she filed for this TPO on the 21st of February, she also reported to the court at that time that she had not seen her child since the defendant came home on February the 14th and took the child and assaulted her. So she made this police report on the 8th of February. The defendant came to her house on the 14th of February and took the child they share, a very young child again, as well as the child's belongings, and has refused to give that child back. That was part of her petition when she filed for an ex parte. She received that ex parte and an order to have the sheriff assist her go regain custody of her baby. The 12-month order was not obtained. No one showed up for the hearing in March, Your Honor. I'm not sure who the victim is of the battery from March in Decatur, but I can try to pull that up now. The defendant in front of you is out on bond, has a conviction for obstruction from 2023, has open possession of a firearm by a person under 18 out of Cherokee, has an open robbery that you just heard of, and that warrant issued out of Decatur for the March assault. We spoke to Mrs. Lassiter today. I would note that while we were speaking to her, it was obvious she was being told what to say in the background. She says they're in a relationship and they live together and that they share this child. And she doesn't want to press charges, but she did confirm what happened. I would argue that this young woman has a lot of pressure on her because now the father of her child and his mother have criminal cases for assaulting her. She had to go through the court system in order to regain custody of her child. This is a little different than the Faulkner case earlier, Your Honor. The young man in front of you actually has no rights or access through the courts to this child and is not married to the mother. Removed the child from her care and had to be assisted. She had to be assisted through the Superior Court and filing that ex parte in order to get her child back. So although Mrs. Lassiter is saying that she wants to drop the charges, it's the state's position that it's in her best interest and the best interest of the child who was arguably present while she was assaulted by grandma and dad, that there be no contact at this point. If you'd call for Miss Lassiter when it's time, he is now charged in front of you with 2 charges of battery, family violence, and then simple battery. We did not charge a strangulation, but that may change in the future. We're asking for a $6,000 surety, Your Honor. The defendant's in violation of multiple bonds and is out on bond for an assault. Committed this assault in front of his infant child and with the help of his mother. So no contact and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Thank you.
Ms. Lassiter, if you would like to address the court, I need for you to raise your right hand for me, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can place your hand down. What would you like to tell the court?
Okay, I do want to say though, after that incident, that's only been the only incident we've ever had. After that incident, we've been fine. Like Rodriguez, he's been doing good. Like he's been working. So all that, and then I heard her say I was being told what to say. That was not true. She called me earlier when I was in the car with my sister, and my sister was on the phone. But I did let her know because she said something about who's in the background. I told her my sister was on the phone.
Okay, so
Yeah, like I don't want to press any charges. Like we've been fine. That was the only incident like that ever happened like that. And I know she said something about a no contact. We do have a 1-year-old, and we do stay together. Like I mentioned, we've been fine. So I don't see no need for a no contact. I don't agree with that.
have you gone through the process of legitimizing the child, Ms. Lassiter?
I know I had did that TPO, but to get my child back, I did not go through the court to get my child back. Rodriguez gave Junior back to me when I went over to his mother's house. He gave him back to me.
Okay, that's not my question to you. My question to you is whether or not there have been any proceedings going forward to make Mr. Seaborn the legitimate father of your child.
I don't think I'm understanding your question. That is his child. He is the father.
Are you married?
No, we're not married.
Do you live together?
We do.
Okay. Miss Allen, any questions?
Miss Lassiter, how old are you?
I'm 19.
And were you the victim of the assault that Mr. Seaborn was arrested for in DeKalb?
Yeah.
Do you know who that was?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's not a female.
Yeah, excuse me?
It's not a female. It's not someone he's in a relationship with.
Thank you. Miss Lassiter, did you receive treatment at the hospital after this assault in February?
I did, but they immediately released me. They said it was no swelling or nothing. They said the bleeding was caused from a scratch. It wasn't no like internal bleeding or nothing like that.
Right, you weren't admitted to the hospital. You just were seen for the injuries that you had when police spoke with you?
Right, because they had the medical, the ambulance that came on scene, and they had looked at me then.
Correct, okay. And have you received any phone calls from Mr. Seaborn's mom or him from jail since he was arrested?
Since he's been locked up out, yes, he's called. He had called. That's how I knew he was arrested. He called me.
And how have you guys worked on your situation and the assault issue since he assaulted you in February?
Well, I know we wasn't around each other for about a month after that, but about a month, like after everything, whatever died down, whatever, we've been back together, and it hasn't been no like fights or no like domestic stuff like that.
And where are your family members?
My mom currently stays in Florida. She moved to Florida.
And your sister, does she live with you?
Yes, my sister lives with me.
And the location where you live, that's 2809 Mitchell Place?
Yes, that's correct.
And does your sister live there with you?
Yes.
And who is on the lease or rental agreement?
She's on the lease.
Are you on the lease?
No, I'm not on the lease.
And is Mr. Seaborn on the lease?
I'm sorry.
Is Mr. Seaborn on the lease?
No, not yet. We're literally in the process of getting our apartments, like in our apartment.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened in February, I believe, almost a year ago. And based on what I have heard from speaking with Ms. Lassiter myself and from speaking with my client, they have been together since the time, parenting their child, who is now a year old. They do want to continue to have contact with each other and to co-parent this child. I believe I heard that my client has a conviction for obstruction, but I don't believe that he has any convictions, any other convictions, Your Honor. I did hear a hold. So I'm going to ask the court to consider giving him a signature bond so he can get out of jail. Nothing further, Your Honor.
He's on bond for a felony robbery. A basic condition of bond is that you don't violate any laws. I did point out, excuse me, Ms. McLeod, I didn't point out that this young woman just said that they spent about a month without having contact, but in her TPO, she did specifically write that she was being denied access and did not get to have that child returned back to her since February the 14th. So although she told the court today that Rodriguez's mommy gave her her baby back, she had to tell the court that she was not being given her child back, and there was an order specifically issued to allow a sheriff to accompany her to regain custody of that child.
Yeah, that never happened though.
All of this happened in February, I believe, of this year. We are now in
Which means
December.
that Mr. Rodriguez's mom came through in March, and she had her first appearance and got her bond conditions. And where's Mr. Rodriguez been? Where's Mr. Rodriguez Seaborn been this whole time?
Run around.
With an active warrant, living with this victim, and his mom knows he's got warrants too.
What exactly did he do wrong? I don't understand what you're saying.
It's acting
do you
like
know that
this
he
is not a
knew he
big
had
deal
a
because it
warrant?
happened in February. It's just a disservice, and it's a dishonest representation to the court, when the reality is he's been evading being arrested and dealing with the fact that he had arrest warrants. That's the reality.
I don't believe he's made any kind of representations to the court.
He's right now, he is the financially one that's literally taking care of us. I stay home with my child. He's the one who's making all the money right now. So I'm not sure what type of picture you're trying to put, but he's not that. Like, he's been with his child. I'm not sure what you're trying to put out there, but he's a great dude. Like, I don't
Simply
understand.
that there's been an arrest warrant active since February, and that you had visible injuries on your face, and your 3-month-old child was with you, and you'd been assaulted by his mother as well.
But that
I'm
was
going
a
to stand on
one-time.
my argument, Your Honor. This young woman is 19 years old, and she lives with her sister. And she and the defendant are not on the lease. And this child is still very young. And although the defense always wants to argue that these things happened so far ago, what you're seeing is someone who knew they had an active warrant. Their mother had just been through in March the court system for her role in assaulting this young woman. But everything's fine. And
Yes,
him being on a felony probation, being on a felony bond right now, and being ordered to not violate the laws, and he continues to violate the laws is an issue.
It seems like the court.
Excuse me, Miss Lassiter, you have to stop. Thank you.
I'm trying to speak so the judge can hear my side, because it seems like the court, okay, what you're trying to do, you're trying to say we cannot be around each other and cannot raise a child. So now what that is going to do,
Miss
that's going to
Lassiter, I'm allowed to make my argument. The judge is going to make a decision. Thank you.
Judge, may I say something, Judge?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Lassiter.
Okay, all I'm saying, if I'm the victim, right, and I'm telling her, me and Rodriguez, we're fine. Like, we got our families together. We're working on getting us an apartment. We're literally doing that right now. I don't see as if why she's coming at it like, no, that's not it. Y'all are going to be separated. Like, if anything, she should be okay. Like, well, then that's good. I'm glad to hear. Like, why is it not coming off as if that? Like, I'm not understanding. She's trying to make it like seem like it's just it's ongoing incidents. That was one incident that happened. it's ever since then we've been fine. And we took that in a month break because my mom was moving to Florida. I went with her to help her move to Florida. So if she never moved to Florida, I would have still been down here. It wasn't necessary to take a break away from her. It would just happen to be around the same time my mom moved to Florida, and I went with her to help her get situated.
Okay, you have a lot
That's all I.
My client has not opened his mouth or made any kind of representations to the court. For the state to suggest that what he knew or did not know, I think it's improper. You cannot read his mind. There may have been a warrant. That doesn't mean he was evading the warrant. There is no evidence before the court that he was evading any warrant. You know, we do not know whether or not he knew of the existence of the warrant. The fact is, he is here before the court now, and the fact also is that this incident happened in February. Those are facts.
Okay. It might have happened in February, but it was a significant event. Anytime that you have to not only call the police to intervene, but you go to the hospital to for injuries that were allegedly a result of that incident, it's a major event. And I don't care whether it happened in February of this year, last year, or of 2020. Also, given all the circumstances that his own mother was arrested and he just didn't happen to be there, he knew that or she should have known that there was a warrant out for him. So I'm in agreement with the state on this in that he knew, especially given all that was going on in their lives at the time. Miss Lassiter trying to get this child back. Miss Lassiter, you're 19 years old. Your child is 1 year old. And I understand that, he might be the only provider in this matter, but that's not, you all need at some point, if he's going to be the father of this child, you're going to have to make him the legitimate father of this child. If you had done that, you might have a better argument before me. That's why I was asking you those questions earlier.
That's why
Ms. Lassiter, you're done now, okay? I'm talking. Oh, you're done? You're done. I'm talking now. I don't want any more excuses from you regarding this. Oftentimes, victims don't know what's best for them. And certainly when there is a 1 year old child, anybody that knows me knows that, you might not, you're a 19-year-old, so you're of age, but you have a responsibility to this 1 year old child. And if he becomes the legitimate father, so does he. At this present time, it's going to be $1,000 good bond on each of the battery charges, a $500 good bond on the simple battery charge, makes for a total of a $2,500 good bond. No further contact at the present time. Stay away from the Mitchell Place address. He can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Ms. McLeod, if they begin the process of legitimizing that child, I'll consider modification of the bond. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good luck to you all.
Okay.
Your Honor, that concludes my business.
Yes, Ms. McLeod. Thank you so much for your help this afternoon. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a good afternoon.
Can I ask something? Hello?
Ms. Lassiter? Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying we cannot make contact with each other even though we share a 1 year old, correct?
That's correct. Until you legitimize that child, he has no rights to the child. And let me just say this: if you do have contact and I find out about it, then he's going to be right back where he is in jail. Okay. So don't think that you're just going to be around him and you're just not. If I find out that you all are violating my order, he's going to be right back where he is.
How do I?
Okay, Ms. Lassiter,
the birth certificate. He signed the birth certificate. I can't.
Okay. Well, you need to consult a lawyer. We are done with that matter for today. You have a good afternoon, ma'am.
That doesn't make any sense.
Ms. Lassiter, I'm going to hold you in contempt if you continue talking. especially if you continue speaking to the court in that manner. I have listened to everything that you have to say. Whether you think it makes sense or not, it is the order of this court. You want to say something else to me? Okay, I take that as a no. All right, who do we have next?
Next Copeland. Number 5, Mr. Copeland.
Courtroom 2, who do we have?
Number 5, Mr. Copeland.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Copeland. You have been charged in case 24 CR 008159B with criminal trespass. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was April the 4th, 2024, out of Cobb County for disorderly conduct. There's a total of 40 arrest cycles in Georgia. Felony conviction in 2016 for possession of cocaine. There's 2 open cases, criminal damage to property. First case number is 23 CP 223688. The second one is 23 SC 18831-01. There's misdemeanor conviction in 2016 for criminal trespass, 2007 criminal trespass, battery, disorderly conduct. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Bessiano?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident took place on December 15th at 1160 Moreland Avenue, which our understanding is that's an address on the Moreland Avenue bus route for MARTA. It appears the defendant was possibly on a MARTA bus while being under an active 365-day suspension from all MARTA facilities. Your Honor, I would point out that one of the cases that is open for criminal damage to property in second is also at a MARTA location. So given that, we are requesting $1,000 surety, stay away from MARTA, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol.
Yes, Mr. Dotis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Copeland is 44 years old. He's a lifetime resident of the Atlanta area. I've got a good address for him where he currently stays with his mom.
You on mute, Mr. Dotis. I'm sorry.
Was I unmute the entire time?
No, his mom, he stayed with his mom is the last I heard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, he does have a good address with mom, Miss Floyd. Your Honor, he currently works at the Ultimate Car Wash on Camp Creek. I believe that is where he was using MARTA to get to. Your Honor, he was aware of a MARTA suspension, but he thought it had expired. It was a year suspension, and after speaking with him, it looks like he learned that he was 10 days short of that MARTA suspension. He thought the 365 days had lapsed and that he was okay to use MARTA. I told him that in the future he does need to confirm by calling MARTA to confirm that he is able to use MARTA without any suspensions. Your Honor, I would just ask for a signature bond through the jail and for him to abide by any active MARTA suspensions. And once those active suspensions have lapsed, for him to be allowed to use MARTA as long as MARTA doesn't have an issue so that he can continue to go to and from work.
And Ms. Desiano, the open case, what was the bond on that? Do you know?
I'm looking right now, Your Honor. It looks like it was, he's got 2 cases. I got to pull up the one that's for MARTA. On both of his open cases, Your Honor, there's actually not a stay away from MARTA, surprisingly. He has a $3,500 good bond on one case and then a UJR on his other case.
And what were the charges?
Both cases, Your Honor, are criminal damage to property in the second degree.
Okay. Does he have any previous criminal trespass charges?
He does. He has a previous conviction, Your Honor, so it's restricted.
Okay. All right, so I wanted to make sure. So Mr. Dodas is restricted, so I don't want to keep him in custody on this charge. So I'm gonna give him a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. Abide by any active MARTA suspensions and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
All right, next we got number 6, Mr. Crowder.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Crowder. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008165B with battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was May the 23rd, 2024, out of College Park for battery. They have a total of 6 arrest cycles, arrests out of Georgia and Tennessee. Felony conviction in 2017 out of Tennessee for obtaining drugs by fraud. 2016, there's a felony theft by receiving where they received first offender, and it was revoked in 2018. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Desiana?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident took place on May 22nd of this year. Officers were dispatched to 2301 Godby Road, apartment B16. The victim in this case is Sharice McCauley. She stated that she put the defendant's clothes by the garbage dumpster on the incident date. The defendant got irate and began punching her multiple times. She told police that she and who is now her ex-boyfriend used to live together at another location, but they were evicted from that property and are no longer living together. The victim had abrasions on her arms and legs. We've been in touch with her today. She states that they don't have children together. She's describing their relationship as a situationship. They don't live together. She states she confirmed the events in the warrant, but she also stated that the defendant slammed her on the ground on her back. And she did confirm her injuries. And the incident location was her friend's house that she was temporarily staying at, but she's no longer staying there. She has not seen or spoken to the defendant since this incident and does not want contact. Your Honor, the state's requesting a $2,500 surety bond, no contact. Stay away from the incident location, although I understand the victim's not there. It's a friend of the victim of some kind. We're also asking for no weapons, drugs, or alcohol, and if you can sound for Miss McCauley.
If Ms. McCauley is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity. Doesn't appear so. Mr. Dodas?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Crowder is 28 years old. I do have good contact information and a good address in McDonough, Georgia. As we heard from the state, he has no reason to go back to that incident location, so we're fine with the stay away from that. He is a lifetime resident of the city of Atlanta, and he's currently living with his fiance, Niana Sawyer, who he will be continue living upon his release. Your Honor, he is a father of 3 biological children, a 9-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. He is also the stepfather of 3 of his fiance's children, who he considers his own. He is the primary provider for his family, where he has a job waiting for him at Mrs. Winter's Fast Food as a cook. Your Honor, as we heard from the state, when I spoke with Mr. Crowder, he did tell me he has had no contact with the alleged victim since this incident. He doesn't want to have any contact. He's fine with the no further contact order. But at this time, Your Honor, he cannot afford any monetary bond. So he would just ask for a signature bond. And I don't believe I heard any violent convictions in the past, along with any conditions this court deems necessary.
Okay, it'll be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Ms. McCauley. Stay away from the Godby Road address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Crowder. Welcome.
Hey, Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
did you say Breonna Beard was in court today?
We will hear her case at the end of the calendar, Ms. Evans. I believe that I'll have Ms. Desiano have someone get in touch with you in that regard. But we will hear her case, and if you would like to speak on that case, I'm happy to hear you. It's not going to be until the end of the calendar, though. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Who do we have next?
Number 10, Mr. Ellis.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Ellis. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008171D with battery against a female who was pregnant. Is there a history? Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was November 14th, 2023 out of Fulton County for obstruction, possession of a dangerous weapon, and criminal use of an article with altered ID mark. That case number is 24 SC 005582. They have a total of 3 arrest cycles with arrests out of Georgia and Alabama. Nothing further to report.
Desiano?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident happened on December 14th around midnight. Officers were dispatched to 320 Fairburn Road regarding a domestic dispute. Upon arrival, they made contact with the victim, who's Nakia Hull. She was distraught and covered in dirt when police arrived. She advised that she and her boyfriend had gotten into a dispute at the location. She went through his phone and was texting his ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend apparently said she was coming over to beat her up. At some point, the dispute escalates and the defendant took the victim's phone, grabbed her, and drug her by her hair toward the front door and into the dirt, into the breezeway. The victim sustained abrasions to her neck. She also had some of her weave pulled out of her head. The parties do not live together. The victim is 3 months pregnant, and she believes that the defendant is the father of that child. And we've not been in touch with her today, Your Honor, and he does have an open felony matter, as pretrial stated. We're requesting a $2,500 surety bond, no contact with Miss Hull, stay away from the incident location, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol, and if you can sound for her.
If Miss Nakia Hull is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity. Mr. Dotis?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Ellis is 20 years old. He's a lifetime resident of the state of Georgia. Your Honor, he is, I believe, he didn't know the address, but he's staying with his brother in Stone Mountain. Your Honor, I've also been in contact with his mother, Janice Minor, who's going to continue supporting Mr. Ellis through this matter. Your Honor, Mr. Ellis cannot afford any bond amount, so we would ask for a signature bond. If he needs a co-signer, Janice Minor, and I can provide that spelling, would be able to co-sign that signature bond. Your Honor, he's a graduate of Benjamin E. Mays High School. He is currently working at KSL Auto Detailing, and he's trying to get a second job with a hiring event company, Lanier Staffing. I'd hope we could hear from the victim today, but I understand we weren't able to. If Your Honor does grant a signature bond, Mr. Ellis is clear that at this time you can have no further contact with Miss Hull, and he understands he'd have to do a stay away from the Fairburn address. But we would just ask for a signature bond and any other conditions the court deems appropriate.
Does he have a job, Mr. Dotis?
Yes, Your Honor. He's working at KSL Auto Detailing, and he was applying for a second job with Lanier Staffing to supplement that.
And can you spell his mother's name?
I can put it in the chat if that's easier. I need to confirm I believe the first name is Janice, Janice. Last name Minor, and Mr. Ellis, if you could confirm this spelling, Minor. You just give me a thumbs up. Okay.
And he's 20 years old?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Miss Minor is his mother?
Yes, and I did speak with her today.
Okay.
She was at work though, and she could not appear on Zoom.
All right. It'll be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. He's to have a parental co-signer of Janice Minor. He's to stay employed at his current place of employment. No further contact with Ms. Hull. Stay away from the Fairburn Road address, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Ellis.
Number 15, Mr. Michelle.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Mitchell. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008161Y with battery, family violence, simple battery, family violence, and reckless conduct. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was June the 28th, 2018, out of Lilburn for driving while license suspended or revoked. There's 7 arrest cycles out of Georgia. Misdemeanor conviction in 2010 for DUI. Nothing further to report.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred on the 13th of December. The defendant was picked up on the 15th, I believe. Police were called when individuals in their residences near the location on the corner of Haynes Bridge Road and Haynes Forest Drive reported a woman in a red dress knocking on doors, asking for help and crying. She was wearing a red dress. The police responded, and on the sidewalk near that location, they located the victim, Sharonika Chevelle, Sharonika. Chevelle is Shavel. She was noted to be crying and distraught. She repeatedly said she could not believe her boyfriend had just left her there on the side of the road 40 minutes away from home. She reported that they had gone to a dinner party at a restaurant, Altabelli's, and that on the way home, the defendant had been abusive and assaulted her in the vehicle. Police relocated her to the middle school to provide some safety and, a space to discuss off the side of the road. She reported that during dinner, she had not offered him any of her shrimp because he's allergic to shrimp, and he became angry. When she asked for a bite of his steak, he said, "No, you need to eat your own fucking food." She went to the bathroom, and when she returned about 10 minutes later, he had already packed up their things and ended the meal. So in the car, they argued while he was driving down Haynes Bridge Road. He got in her face very closely. She pushed him back. He then lunged at her and wrapped his arms around her neck and her head, striking her in the mouth. She had a bloody laceration to the inside of her lip. She reported to the police that the car stopped, and the next thing she knew, she was outside of the vehicle with her head being shoved into straw there on the outside of the vehicle. She said she was unsure how the defendant was able to get her out of the vehicle and get his hands on her so quickly. She didn't know whether he came across the console or got out. But she did note that her glasses had come off, and so she has very bad eyesight. Her glasses were in the vehicle, so she was unable to see, and her phone had no charge. The defendant left her there and left the location. She provided his name and date of birth, as well as a description of the vehicle. Instagram pictures as well were shown with him standing in front of his vehicle. The plate of that vehicle was run, and a license plate reader noted that it was driving north on Haynes Bridge Road at the time. He was identified with a driver's license photograph. The victim was then transported to headquarters by Alpharetta Police, where she was picked up by a friend, and she reported that she'd go stay with her parents for the night. They live together, and they've known each other for a very long time. You did hear the defendant has a DUI conviction. He's got a 2013 simple battery arrest that was dismissed. We spoke to the victim this morning, Mrs. Chevelle. She's here on the Zoom. She reports that they live together, they don't have children, and she denies everything that happened. She says there was never a physical altercation, there was no argument, that she willingly got out of the car. He never put his arms around her and pushed her or hurt her. this is all her fault because she was heavily intoxicated and had on heels and she kept falling. So she injured herself. She only called the police because he left her on the side of the road. Nothing like this has ever happened before, and she's not in fear. Your Honor, there are jail calls to the victim from the jail, and I've requested specifically the body cam out of Alpharetta because not only is this a recanting, but a complete 180. So we have to assess, the evidence at this point. The domestic violence is evidence-based prosecution. So we'll have to compare whether her statement to us is inconsistent or whether her statement to police was. At this time, we're asking for a $4,000 surety, no contact with Ms. Chevelle, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, Your Honor. It appears that they live together. I'm not sure if you would just sound for her. Thank you. That's in your discretion.
Ms. Allen, the reckless conduct, was that the allegation of pushing out of the vehicle or?
Leaving her on the side of the road where she has to knock on people's doors at 11 p.m. without her glasses or a phone that works, asking for help.
Okay, thank you.
40 minutes away from home.
Ms. Chevelle, I see you there. If you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. I'll need for you to, raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yes, yes, Ms. Chevelle, what would you like to tell the court?
So I just want to start off by saying a lot of what she said did happen. I'm just talking on what I can remember. As she stated, I was heavily intoxicated, very, very, very drunk, as I was not the designated driver that night. I'm just going to say what I remember. What I remember is that me taking off my shoes, the only laceration or any type of bruising done to me was my lip. I wear braces, and these type of things happen to me on a daily basis. I took my shoes off because I was very drunk and heavily intoxicated, and I kept buckling my ankles and rolling my ankles. So I fell. I think the things in my hand hit me in the mouth. I'm not saying we didn't argue. A lot of things what she said is true. We did argue in the car over the food and stuff like that, but he did not reach over the center console and drug me out of the car. I literally got out of the car on my own because I told him I didn't want to be in the car driving with him anymore. We weren't seeing each other's point on the matter of the argument. It just was, we weren't getting anywhere. So at that point, I just was like, I want to get out this effing car with you. And he pulled over, he let me out the car, and he drove off. The only reason the cops are involved in this is because I didn't have a working phone. He left me on the side of the road in an unfamiliar area to myself. It was dark. I was blind. It was cold. I just needed someone to come get me. I couldn't get myself a Lyft or an Uber or anything like that. I was visibly in tears and distraught because, like she said, I couldn't believe he left me on the side of the road. Honestly, that is the only thing that he is guilty of to me. And from what I can remember, we've known each other for a long time, and we've never had over 12 years, we've never had anything happen like this between the both of us. I am in no way, shape, or form in fear of my life at all, because this is not who we are together with each other. Like these type of things, sure, argue, but these type of things happen with us.
All right. Thank you for being here this afternoon, Ms. Chevelle. Mr. Dodas?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Michel is 36 years old. He is a lifetime resident of the state of Georgia. He does have a good address in the area, which he does share with Ms. Chevelle, and he would like to continue staying there with no further violent contact. I have good contact information for Mr. Michel. He would not qualify for our services. He is a full-time day trader, but I, of course, will be assisting today. I did have the opportunity to speak with Ms. Chevelle earlier when she reached out. She said the same thing she's saying now. The only issue she had was an issue with my client leaving her. She says she was heavily intoxicated, and as we heard, my client was the designated driver. The only injury she sustained was a lip injury, which she told me, and again stated to this court, that was just due to braces and had nothing to do with any actions of my client. They did argue. She did ask my client to pull over because of the argument, where she wanted to get out of the car. At that point in time, my client tells me that he was clear that she was upset, heavily intoxicated. He did not just continue driving away and go on his own. He tells me that he knew that she didn't want anything to do with him, but he went over a couple of streets parked and attempted to Venmo or Cash App her money so that she could get an Uber. And at that point in time, he did see that the request was not going through. And he realized there must be something wrong with her phone or her phone died. He attempted to go back and see if she was there, but she was not there. As we learned, she did knock on someone's address seeking help. But again, she was heavily intoxicated that night. Your Honor, we are just asking for a signature bond, no further violent contact, no stay away because they do live together, and any other conditions this court would deem appropriate.
Okay, for the battery, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. The simple battery, $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. The reckless conduct, $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Makes for a total of a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 1 day anger awareness. No further violent contact with Ms. Chevelle. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, sir.
Judge, will you go with those amounts again?
Yes, 2, 1, and 1.
2, 1, and 1. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is number 3, Mr. Turpinov next.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Shepanoff. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008162J with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
No history to report at this time.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from the 15th. So yesterday at about 2:27 in the afternoon, police were called in Johns Creek to 1206 Bristol Parkway. They were called to the location on a domestic dispute. Both parties were there, the defendant in front of you and his wife, Lyubov, Lyubov, same last name. The victim, when separated and asked what happened, told police that during a verbal argument, the defendant had grabbed her by grabbing her by her arms and then physically moved her to a bedroom. We spoke to her today. She reports that they're married and live together and they share children, that he had been slapping her and pushing her and kicking her during this incident, that the behavior is not the first time that this has happened, that there's been an escalation over a period of time since March and before. She's concerned about that and she wants no contact and she wants him to stay away from the home. He would need a one-time escort, Your Honor. And the victim, Mrs. Sharapanov, I think has joined us on Zoom. We're asking for a $2,000 SOB through pretrial, no contact, and to stay away from the 1206 Bristol Parkway address in Johns Creek. Thank you.
And Ms. Lyubov, I see you there. If you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. You would have to unmute yourself, activate your camera. I'll have to swear you in. Doesn't appear that she wishes to address the court. Mr. Dotis?
Thank you, Judge. Yes, Mr. Turpinov is 48 years old. He has been in Atlanta for 24 years, where he plans on staying. Your Honor, after speaking with him, it is clear there's an issue with the relationship at this point, so he understood that there might be a chance of a stay away and no further contact. He's fine with that at this time, Your Honor. He does have the means to temporarily pay for hotels before landing on something solid. Your Honor, he has a son, additionally, Ivan, that will assist him in the area. We would just ask for a signature bond and one-time sheriff's escort so that he has an opportunity to get any property.
Okay. It will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with the alleged victim. Stay away from the Bristol Parkway address. He can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, sir.
All right, next we got number 12, Mr. Hubbard.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Hubbard. You have been charged in case 24 CR 008172F with possession of pistol or revolver by a person under 18 years of age and wearing a mask, hood, or device which concealed your identity. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
No
Your Honor,
history to report at this time.
Ms. Desiano?
yes, Your Honor. The state also just added a charge for loitering while court's been in session. I'm not sure if state courts had an opportunity to file that charge down. But this incident happened on December 15th, 2024. About 2:30 in the morning, officers were patrolling in the area of Campbellton Road and Dotson. They approached the neighborhood food market, which is located at 2661 Campbellton Road. It's a convenience store. The officer observed the defendant adjusting his waistband and wearing a ski mask as if he was trying to hide something. The officer then conducts a suspicious person stop and asks the defendant why he's wearing a ski mask. The defendant told him he didn't know. And while the officer was speaking to him, noticed that there was a butt of a firearm sticking out of the defendant's pants. The officer frisked him and recovered a Taurus 9mm, which the defendant claimed he found in an abandoned somewhere in an apartment complex. Judge, I understand it's first arrest, but obviously there's some concerns here. He's out in the middle of the night. This is also a Friday morning, so he should have been in school the next day. He's loitering at a place of business in the middle of the night. And so we're asking for a 10,000 surety, Your Honor, broken down however the court sees fit. Stay away from the incident location, the neighborhood food market. We're also asking for a curfew, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol, absolutely no firearms. And if the court's going to send anything through pretrial, we would certainly object to that. But if the court's going to do that, then a parental cosigner. Thank you.
Okay. Is the person here on the Samsung connected with this case?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm his mother.
Okay. So can you activate your camera? I'm not. Okay. All right. Yes. And unmute yourself, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Tell me your name.
It's Monique Hunter.
Okay, Ms. Hunter, can you raise your right hand for me, please?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, thank you. You can place your hand down. Ms. Hunter, what would you like to tell me about Carlito?
To be honest, sir, he's a good kid. He's a hardworking child. Some information that was reported to you was a little misleading. In fact, it was over on a Friday night, which would have been the next morning, which would have been a Saturday. I had no idea of this situation. I was just actually shocked. I was woke up out my sleep to a phone call telling me that my child had been arrested. His cousin had walked to the store, and we patronized that business quite often. And I was even shocked that that situation even occurred. He goes to school. He's been working full time for the past year, very minimum call outs. I don't really have any trouble with him. That's why I was really even shocked that he was even charged with this crime. And I do want to apologize to the courts because, like I said, I'm not just saying that because he's my child. He's actually a good kid. And I was even just shocked and alarmed in this situation, to be honest with you. It's unfortunate.
Okay, where is he in school?
He goes to Mays.
How old is he?
He's 17.
What grade is he in?
He's in the 11th grade, Your Honor.
Does he play any, does he do any extracurricular
He
activities?
he was at one point playing football, but to assist with our family situation, he took on the responsibility of trying to work, and he sacrificed football this season so he could work. And in fact, he has been working over the past year. Like I said, he doesn't call out from work. I was just even shocked that he would be involved in any situation like this, as he is a productive member of society.
Where does he work?
He works over at Miss Winters.
And when does he normally get off?
It varies between 10, between 10 and 10:45, I would say, in the evening. They would just walk into the store. We just went through transition. We lost my mom almost a year to tomorrow, it'll be a year. And he's been having some challenges with even coping with grieving her loss. In the process, it's just been very difficult for my family, losing my mom. And I'm just shocked that my son would even be in a situation like this, because this is not his typical behavior. It's really
Okay.
not, to be honest.
I'm sorry for your loss, Ms. Hunter.
Thank
Do you all keep guns in the house?
No, we do not. That's why I was even shocked to even hear this. I know a few years ago, which I was explaining to the court administrator who reached out to me, he was robbed a couple years back at gunpoint, and I never got any counseling for him. And I feel bad because maybe had I had counseling for him at that time, then I would have been more aware of his safety precautions, and not only his, the community as well. And had I done that at that time, then maybe I would not be in the situation, and neither would he had at this time, sir.
Okay. Ms. Hunter, I appreciate you being here this afternoon. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. And stay on for me, because I'm gonna wanna direct some things to you coming forward. Mr. McLean?
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, I think I've been confused with the court administrator because we were talking about the court administrator so much with the cosign form, or the clerk rather. Your Honor, he's doing two things full time now, and I just don't even know when he has time to study. He's full time in the 11th grade, and he's practically full time at Mrs. Winters. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond under appropriate conditions, and I imagine they would be rather strict.
What, when you say full-time, how many hours does he work a week? Do you know?
I think it's well over 30. I think it's practically 35 or so.
If I may speak, Your Honor, his hours increase when school is out on breaks. This past week, he had a semester break, and he volunteered to, get as many hours as possible.
Okay. How many hours does he normally work while he's in school?
Anywhere from, I would say, 20 to 32 at the most, when he's not in school.
All right. So, anything further, Mr. McLean?
That's all, Your Honor.
All right. For the possession of the pistol, it would be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. For the wearing the mask, a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. For the loitering, a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. Makes for a total of a $7,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. On the nights that when he is not working, I want him to have a curfew. He to be in by 9 p.m. and he's to stay in until 6 a.m. He is to remain in school. While he is in school, I'm going to limit his hours at Miss Winters to 20 hours a week. If he is not in school, or if he's out on breaks, then he can increase those hours. But while he's in school, I don't want him working more than 20 hours a week. He's going to have a parental co-signer. So, and that's my understanding, Monique Hunter. Ms. Hunter, will you spell your first name for me?
Yes, sir. It's Monique.
Okay, and Hunter?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay, you're going to have to co-sign for him to get out of custody. And he's living with you, is that my understanding?
Yes, sir. I believe those documents are still processing, but I believe I did sign the correct documents after I
Oh,
spoke to Mr. Yes, sir.
okay, all right. So you're gonna, if he violates any of the conditions that I'm giving him, then he's going to be right back where he is. Okay. But I don't want him working that much while he's in school. I want him concentrating more on being in school. He's to have also no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. So he's to surrender any weapons, as he should not have them in the first place.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good luck to you, Miss Hunter. Good luck to you also, Mr. Hubbard.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Will he be released today by any chance? Or how would
I'm
I?
not sure. I'm not sure. You'll call down, make sure that you call before you go pick him up to make sure that he's being processed out. Sometimes it can take the jail a while to process people out, so he might not be released until tomorrow. So call before you go.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay.
Who do we have next?
Number 19, Mr. Schrader.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Schrader. You've been charged in case 24 CR 008170J with battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
The last arrest was April the 4th, 2009 out of Milton for shoplifting. That is their only arrest cycle out of Georgia. Nothing further to report.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from the 14th of December at about 4 a.m. Police were called to 434 High Creek Trace in Roswell. On scene, they met with the victim. Her name was Andrea Reynolds. She reported that the defendant, who's her boyfriend, had struck her. She was seen to have discoloration and swelling to her mouth and on the left side of her face. Their roommate, a witness, reported that the two individuals got home from a rave. I didn't know those existed after 1994. They argued and she heard loud banging and then the victim yelling. She also heard the defendant say, "That's what you get." The witness reported she went upstairs and saw the victim crying on the ground. We spoke to Mrs. Reynolds today. She says they're in a relationship and they live together and they share a child. That they were in an argument and that he slapped her, causing her to fall to the ground. She also reports the bruising on her face and said she's got bruises on her arms. She reports this is the first time that there's been violence and she's not in fear. Your Honor, we're asking for a $2,000 SOB through pretrial, no contact with Ms. Reynolds and to stay away from that location. We'd ask for no drugs, alcohol, or weapons and some kind of anger awareness. And if you would sound for Mrs. Reynolds. Thank you.
Ms. Reynolds is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Mr. McLean?
No objection to what the state has proposed.
Okay, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 1 day anger awareness. No further contact with Ms. Reynolds. Stay away from the High Creek Trace address. He can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, sir.
We got number 22, Mr. Solomon.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Solomon. You have been charged in case 24 CR 008168A with 2 counts of simple battery family violence and 1 count of simple battery against a person who is 65 years or older or who was pregnant at the time of the offense. Is there a history, Miss Hardy?
The last arrest was February 27, 2001, out of DeKalb for simple battery, false imprisonment, armed robbery, and criminal attempt to commit a felony. There's a total of 5 arrest cycles in Georgia. 2001 felony conviction for armed robbery, CWAT charge, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm. Let's see. Nothing further to report.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that happened on the 15th at about 12:35 a.m. Police were called to 516 Magnolia Street Southwest. There they met with the victim. Her name is Linda Lewis. She's 69 years old. When police arrived at the location, the defendant in front of you was seen kicking the front door of the residence, telling police he was just trying to get his things. I would note that this young man is not 69 years old. There is a large age difference here. When they spoke to the victim, she said she was in the kitchen washing her hair when he came in and accused her of cheating. He grabbed her and shoved her to the floor where she fell and hit her head. She got an ice pack and put it to her head, and he snatched it from her, telling her she didn't need it. He was arrested on scene. She reported that the defendant has a second address, but often stays there with her, and they are in a relationship. We spoke to Mrs. Linda Lewis today. She corroborated the information, says they have no children, but they're in a relationship and live there at the location, and nothing like this has ever happened before. We're asking for a $6,000 surety, Your Honor. No contact with Mrs. Linda Lewis, and to stay away from that location, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And if you would sound for her.
Yes, I see you there, Ms. Lewis. If you would like to address the court, I'll need for you to raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, you can place your hands down, Ms. Lewis. What would you like to tell the court?
I would like to tell the court that Mr. Solomon is not a vicious person. He's not violent. He had been watching football all day Saturday, and he had a few drinks, so he was a little intoxicated. But by the time his uncle came that night, actually, we were getting ready to go to bed, but his uncle wanted him to go out with him. So he went upstairs and changed his pants. But while he was upstairs, for some reason, he thought his uncle made a play on me or touched me inappropriately, and I told him that that didn't happen. But by him being a little intoxicated, he wasn't hearing me. And so at that point, he left out the door after he changed clothes and went to look for his uncle. And I closed the door and I locked it. I wasn't going to let him back in. So he started kicking the door. That's the reason that I called the police. But I would like to say, if Mr. Solomon truly in his heart believes that I will let any man touch me inappropriately like that, then I'm in the wrong relationship anyway. And if he does not want to fix this, then I'm willing to end this relationship today.
Okay. Ms. Lewis. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client, Mr. Solomon, is 50 years old. He works at Hoots Wings and has done so for 5 years. They asked him for the last 5 years worth of employment. So he's got a 12th grade education. I would ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible under this situation, Your Honor, including a signature bond if that's possible, but a $1,000 or $2,000 surety bond if it's not.
All right, for each of the charges, it's going to be a $500 good bond, makes for a total of a $1,500 good bond. At this time, no further contact with Ms. Lewis. Stay away from the Magnolia Street address. He can go back to that address on one occasion if necessary with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Do you have a question for me, Ms. Lewis?
Yes, Your Honor. We have been in a relationship for like 2 years now. And like I said, I've never seen him get violent with anyone. I've spoken to his mother for the last 48 hours since he was locked up. And we talked a lot. He's a good man. He's never done anything like this to me before. He didn't hit me. He just pushed me. I lost my footing when he pushed me and I fell. But he has never done anything wrong. He's never cursed me. He's never done anything wrong to me. So I'll ask you to please give him a signature bond, and if we can work this out, we will. If not, then the relationship will end.
So at the present time, given his history, that's going to be the ruling of the court as far as the good bond goes. And given that this only just occurred yesterday, I think there needs to be a little cooling off period. So if in the future you would like to seek modification of the bond, or he would like to seek modification of the bond, you can seek modification if you choose to do so. So I'll put you in touch with Mr. McLean, but at the present time, given that this only happened yesterday, I want you all to have a bit of a cooling off period, okay?
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Merry Christmas.
All right, same to you, Ms. Lewis. Good luck to you. You as well, Mr. Solomon.
Number 13, Mr. Hudson.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Hudson. You have been charged in case 24 CR 008174E with battery family violence. Is there a history?
Last arrest was July the 5th, 2023, out of Fulton for criminal damage to property and criminal trespass. That case is open under 23 CP 219922. There appears to be an open case for probation. That case number is 21 SC 178805, and that's for robbery. Misdemeanor conviction in 96 for simple battery, 94 simple assault. Nothing further to report.
Yes.
Your Honor, he has 59 cycles. He also has a conviction for aggravated assault out of Fulton County, 19 SC 168520. In 2019, he has a 2020 conviction for entering auto. He's on probation for the robbery, like pretrial stated. He also has a conviction in 2017 for simple battery against law enforcement officer in Fulton, and a 2016 battery conviction out of Fulton, in addition to several probation violation arrests and theft arrests as well, Your Honor. This incident happened on December 4th. Officers were dispatched to 3602 Spanish Trail, apartment 16 in East Point, regarding a fight. That's the Cameron Run apartment complex. The victim in this case is Sharita Bailey. She advised that her ex-boyfriend came over to her residence to retrieve the rest of his belongings that he had at her home prior to their separation. She said everything initially appeared calm, but then the defendant started begging and pleading to the victim, to apologizing repeatedly, attempting to reconcile. The victim was not having it. The defendant got upset, and because the victim wasn't hearing him out, and he responded by punching the victim several times in her face. The victim was seen to have lacerations and bruising to her mouth area. The victim also stated that the defendant grabbed her by the neck while he was punching her in the face. So this incident happened on December 4th. The victim filed a petition for a TPO on November 25th, which was about a week prior to this incident. There was an ex parte TPO that was granted. In that petition, the victim details several incidents from November 2024 where the defendant was following her, showing up to the same store she was at, forcing her to let him stay at her house. The most recent incident in that petition was from November 23rd, where the defendant again was trying to get back together with the victim. She asked him to leave. He refused. She tried to call the police. The defendant snatched her phone, grabbed her, kicked her, strangled her. She reports having bruises on her wrists, bleeding lips, bruising throughout her body. He fled the scene prior to police arriving. He was calling her repeatedly and aggressively contacting her. As of today, the defendant was served that ex parte TPO. He'd been evading service for some time. So of course she wants no contact. We've been in touch with her today. She states that she confirmed the events in the warrant. There's a lot of violent history. She said even as most recent as December 9th, he came to her home banging on her door repeatedly. She wants no contact and would like for him to stay away. Your Honor, state's requesting a $2,500 surety bond, no contact with Miss Bailey, stay away from the incident location. We're also asking for an MHET, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And Miss Bailey is on the line, Your Honor, if you could sound for her.
Yes, I see you there, Miss Bailey. If you would like to address the court, if you'd raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can place your
I
hand
do.
down. Thank you, ma'am. What would you like to tell the court?
Well, I wanted to start off by saying that most of the incidents that she's talking about, some of them are correct. The one with the violent one was the one that I did the restraining order on. I also did mention that if there's any way, if those charges can be dropped, but I still want the no contact, because we have already passed, like we have, even when they said, the lady told me that they had one about the windows in the car, and I had explained that even though he did that, he paid to get it fixed. Since then, we haven't really been in no kind of arguments or fight or anything like that. So at this point, we've been distant, and it haven't been escalated to the point where there has any enforcement had to be coming to the home or anything like that. But I would like to say that he is just got a little temper problem. Yes, he do. But other than that, he is a good person. And I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but all I would like is to drop the charges and to just have the no contact.
Thank you for being here this afternoon, Miss Bailey.
Yes, sir.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client, Mr. Hudson, is 52 years old. He has that the state and the clerk read out, but he apparently has avoided the last, what might happen to somebody else. He's apparently participating in an accountability court, and so there's a certain amount of accountability and a certain amount of break gotten from that, a level of trust that otherwise a person doing something like that would have gotten revocation. I looked up the last revocation he had, and it was not significant in terms of a punishment per se. He works at a laundromat. Before that, he worked at Collier Metals for several years. So he is industrious in that sense, and he is a graduate of Frederick Douglass High School when he was 18. We would ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible, including a signature bond if that's possible, something like $1,000 or $2,000 surety.
Mr. McLean, are you saying which accountability court is he in? For which case?
I believe it's drug court. If I got the right person, though.
Well, usually accountability court would not take someone with this criminal history.
Mr. Hudson? Is he there?
Criminal trespass. Criminal damage to property and criminal trespass. That's what I'm in drug court for.
No,
Right.
it's 21 SC 178805. It's a robbery from 2020. And it looks like he's
Is
under.
that-
That's a conviction, I thought.
Yes,
I'm on probation for that.
Right. It's part of Superior Court. Right.
it is a conviction, and it looks like he's taken part. There's a sanction order issued December the 11th, 2024.
Okay. Further, it's going to be $1,000 good bond. No further contact with Miss Bailey. Stay away from her residential address, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Hudson. You as well, Miss Bailey.
Thank you.
Who do we have next?
Go to the waiver number 2, Ms. Beard.
Okay. All right, Brianna Beard, position 2, charged in case 24 CR 008071H with following too closely, hit and run. Your history, Ms. Hardy.
The last arrest was February 22nd, 2023, out of Clayton for a probation violation. There's 11 arrest cycles in Georgia, felony conviction in 2011 for aggravated assault, where they received first offender treatment and it was sealed in 2018. There's an open case for simple battery and cruelty to children. That case number is 24 SC 001028. Nothing further to report.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Your Honor, Ms. Beard came in last week on first appearance. She's also got an open felony interference with government property case that she was arrested on. The incident here on the docket today is from November the 16th. Police were dispatched to a hit and run at Pollard Boulevard and Capitol. They met with Mrs. Frederica Evans, who's here on the Zoom and had been every time this case has been reset. We appreciate that, Ms. Evans. She'd been rear-ended by the defendant who was driving a 2023 Dodge Hornet. The defendant did stay on the scene for a short period of time, but then left on foot, smoking a cigarette. She didn't want to wait anymore. She was seen to the victim to be under the influence, Your Honor. And the defendant was identified as the registered owner of that vehicle as well. When police got to the scene, they spoke to Mrs. Evans and she reported that, after she was rear-ended, the defendant got out of her vehicle and approached her, but then didn't provide any information. The victim has received medical treatment. She's got a problem with her knee as a result. Her neck was in a brace for a period of time and her vehicle was absolutely totaled. I believe that the defendant had insurance and that is assisting with the coverage of a car for the victim at this point. But she has had a substantial issue with pain and the inability to work like she was before this accident happened. Your Honor, we're asking for a surety bond in this case. We'd ask for a $2,000 surety bond, one for each count. No driving without a valid license, no contact with Mrs. Evans, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. And if a MHET needs to be ordered, this has been a behavioral reset multiple times. We would join in that. Thank you. And if you'd sound for Mrs. Evans, thank you.
Yes, I see you there, Ms. Evans. Thank you for your patience today. If you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. I need for you to raise your right hand for me. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can place your hand down, Ms. Evans. What would you like to tell the court?
So, I do have a lawsuit against her. She did hit 2 other people besides me on the same strip. I did, and I am not gonna lie, I did chase her all the way to Fulton Street by Pollard. Like half of her car was gone. I had to receive like therapy and medication for PTSD and pain for my leg. I do currently have a brace on it. And the fact that she still ain't in the court and it's our second time here, I don't think she needs to. I think she need a higher bond.
Thank you for being here today, Ms. Evans. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, we would ask the court simply to take into account that she has been in a social worker visit is appropriate, needs any kind of evaluation. And I've been trying to get hold of her family unsuccessfully. So we'd ask the court to simply set a bond that is appropriate to the circumstance and as low as possible for her.
So how long has this case been reset? How long has she been in custody?
At least since the 11th, because I've got a calendar with her name on it from the 11th. So that's 5 days ago.
So you haven't been able to locate anybody to assist her in 5 days? Nobody's come looking for her or anything?
I don't believe we viewed her until now, because I did what we refer to as a field trip, because I was at the jail and they took me over to see her. But
And what's the problem? Why is she not before us?
oh, she just waived her. She told me forthright, very lucidly and very clearly. She says, "I don't want to be in court today. Just waive my presence."
And the other times that she wasn't in court, did she say the same thing?
I don't know. I never had met her before, Your Honor.
She was booked in on the 10th, Your Honor, and she's been a behavioral reset. She's listed as a combative inmate in the jail documents.
She was definitely not today.
Well, I'm just concerned that she's been in for so long and no one's come looking for her, or, there's no family or anything. I do want to be a social worker visit for a BHET, Mr. McLean. It will be a $500 good bond on each of the charges, makes for a total of $1,000 good bond. Social worker visit for a BHET. No further contact with Ms. Evans, and no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. And Mr. McLean, I know that our next SAP calendar is not till after the new year. If you locate someone that can assist, I'm happy to hear that person. I'll be here tomorrow and most of the next 2 weeks for SEA. But if you can locate somebody that can have some type of responsibility, I'm happy to relook at this. Not on an SAP calendar, given that we're not going to have any until first of the year. I don't think.
All we've got right now, Your Honor, is a phone. I'll keep trying.
Okay, I'm just saying that if you do, I'm happy to view it again. I'd hate to keep her here, through all of the holidays, if not for these charges. Okay, but that'll be the ruling for now. All right, thank you all. Let's see, Ms. Bridgewater.
Yes, sir.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Once again, the reset date for the SAP calendar is January the 2nd, 2025. Okay. Position number 1 is going to that calendar with a $1,000 good bond. Position 2 also going to that calendar with a total $1,000 good bond. Position 3 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 4 is reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial. 5 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 6, reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial. 7, reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 8 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,400 good bond. 9 is going to the SAP calendar with a $3,000 good bond. 10 is reset further notice with a $5,000 SOB through pretrial with a co-signer of Janice Minor. 11 going to the SAP calendar with a total $2,000 good bond. 12 reset further notice with a total $7,000 SOB through pretrial with a co-signer of Monique Hunter. 13 is going to the SAP calendar with a $1,000 good bond. 14 is reset further notice with a total $2,000 SOB through the jail. 15 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $4,000 good bond. 16 SAP calendar with a $500 good bond. 17, reset further notice with a total $5,000 SOB through pretrial. 18 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 19, reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 20 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $2,500 good bond. 21, reset further notice with a total $3,000 SOB through pretrial. 22 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,500 good bond. 23, going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,000 good bond. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise?
Yeah, Ms. Bridgewater, could you go address position 15 again? I thought it was a signature bond through pretrial.
15, I have a $4,000 good bond. Is it a signature? Okay.
It is.
Going through pretrial, or what is it going through? The jail or pretrial?
It's a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1, 1-day anger awareness, no further violent contact with Ms. Chevelle, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Gotcha.
And Mr. Dotis, I did just receive the body cam from that incident, so I'll review it. And if there's a reason that we should not move forward, I'll handle it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
Okay, if not, I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
I think DV days is Mondays. What do you guys think?
Every day it seems to be different.
I mean, sometimes, but I just feel like
we get a lot of them. I guess it's the weekend, maybe.
It's weird. I had hardly any
yeah.
last week, and this week it was like every single case.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Hopefully,
Judge, are you on SAP tomorrow?
Yes, I am. Are you going to be with me?
Yes, I'll see you then.
All right. We have a big calendar, it looks like.
We sure do.
We had one
Okay.
today.
See y'all tomorrow.